are live. Whiskey with an Agent. This is episode number 17. We're in the Altamont Springs office this time. Yep. That's why it's got a little bit different setup. So normally it's just Chris and I on the computer. Let me turn this down a little bit so you can hear him, because Chris doesn't have his headphones on, so he can't start yelling at you to turn it down. So, and if you're listening right now, let me know how the sound quality is, because I'm trying to figure out this board, but we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely.
So what's going on, Chris?
Not much, man. Sitting here with our good friend Victoria.
Yes. Hello, gentlemen.
Yeah, we've got a special guest, as stated in the description, and she is the owner of Stone Key Insurance.
Yeah.
So you've been in the industry for quite a while, right?
I got my license back in 2008.
Oh, wow. 2008.
So you've been pretty much at the beginning or the drop of the crash is when you got into the game.
Yeah, because I lost my job.
Oh,
I was in the title industry.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you pretty much saw the bottom of the market, and then just to where it is now. So Victoria, tell us a little bit more about like what was it like not going that far back. Well, not going that far back. But just
before we get into our life story,
should we
talk about what we're drinking?
I think we should, sir.
I think we should. So you guys have already got some poured.
Yes, we do.
I was trying to type away and do some stuff. So what is this? What are you drinking?
All right. So actually I was I wanted to try something. So I stopped by ABC, Total Wine, actually not ABC, but Total Wine today, and got the Grange Stone. It's a 12-year, and I believe it's a Scotch whiskey. Is that what it says on the front?
It is a Scotch whiskey Highland single malt.
Yeah, so they had a tasting tonight between 2 and 6 o'clock. So I was just like, "What do you got for whiskeys?" Oh, we got this one. He was just rattling stuff off.
Dang.
He's like, I guess it has. I haven't had any time to really look at it. He says, but there's 3 places. He's got the front end is like really smooth, and the very end is very smoky, and it has like kind of a sweet flavor. And I tasted it, sampled it. I'm just like, well, he made my decision tonight easier. So,
right.
And here we are, just sipping on it. So everyone, cheers. Looks like we're all drinking this tonight.
Cheers.
So, Victoria, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It's got a little bite in the beginning, but then, it smooths out. It's nice.
It's incredible.
I like it.
Even for it being neat. Like and I usually like my whiskey with ice, same as you.
Yeah, on the rocks.
Yeah, on the rocks or with ball ice.
I like it.
Yeah. My refrigerator at home makes 2 types of ice, or 3: crushed ice, regular cubes, and then ball ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. My husband makes the big round. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He's got the specialty things that he pours.
Like
but yours actually
makes it. LG.
That's cool.
LG. Thank you, everyone. Just so y'all know, they make their own ball ice for the whiskey.
Nice.
It's almost always bare because I'm always like a glass of whiskey. It's perfect. I love it. So it's the only reason why we got that fridge.
Are you serious? He's like, it makes ice balls.
Exactly. That's my wife. She was just like, you only want that for the ice. And I was just like, maybe. Dr. Evil style. Live a little. Absolutely.
That's fun.
Yeah. So I like it a lot. What's your usual go-to?
I like old fashions.
Yeah, same. Do you like making them at home, or do you have a particular restaurant that you go to that just makes them awesome?
My husband makes the best.
Oh, yeah?
He loves bourbon. It's his favorite thing.
Oh, same. Yeah. You're at the right place.
And actually, I invited him. I said, "You want to come watch? Because they are having whiskey, bourbon." And he's like, "Nah." But yeah, he drinks. He loves his bourbon, and he's got all the accoutrements, and he makes the best. He knows exactly how I like it. He puts a little extra orange in there, and he puts a little.
Very nice.
A couple of cherries, and
I need to come hang out with you guys, because that's something that me and Bethany wanted to really kind of get into a little bit more, was doing different types of cocktails.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I love old fashions. Whenever we see like a $2 or more sign on the reviews, I'm just like, all right, I'll try an old fashioned.
Right.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Yeah.
And then there's a Sazerac too, which is kind of a lemon kind of thing too. Have you
what?
ever tried a Sazerac?
Sazerac.
Yeah, I guess from what I understand, they're popular down in New Orleans.
Okay.
And Sazerac. So old fashions are more like an orange flavor, but the Sazerac is more like a lemon flavor.
It gives a little bit more of a I don't want to say bitter, but how would you describe that versus like with an orange?
I don't know. It's more lemony, and they tend to use rye instead of bourbon. Well, I mean, bourbon is a rye, isn't it?
Well, it's just what one of the
bourbon.
ingredients,
right?
Yeah.
But some ryes are a little different flavor, from what I understand.
They are,
and I'm no expert, but yeah, I guess you use rye for a Sazerac.
Okay.
And bourbon.
I guess it just blends better. It
Yeah.
must just blend better.
I
I can see that because rye has a very particular taste. If anybody doesn't know what a rye bourbon tastes like, just think of the rye bread you've ever had. Like that's that one very particular flavor.
Yeah.
And that's what bourbon is.
You guys go up.
Rye.
There's what is it? That bourbon bar in Sanford, the Imperial.
Bourbon bar.
Have you ever been there?
No.
That was the first time ever hearing about this.
No.
Oh, okay. So there's an Imperial in Sanford, and it's a
Alright.
bourbon bar, and there's also one in the Ivanhoe district in Orlando. So there's two. Anyway, I used to go up. You can get on a list, and they have a cue card, and if you have 50, if you try 50 different of their bourbons,
Yeah.
you get your name on the bar. They literally put your name on the
Nice.
bar.
Oh, nice.
They like etch it in.
Yeah, they
Or,
have like these little gold tags, and they have
Uh-huh.
your name like
And-
in. Yep, and put it in the bar, and
That's awesome.
it's a really cool bar because it used to be. Well, it is also a furniture shop, and they import from India. So
I've
literally,
seen that.
yeah. So you go. It's the coolest thing ever. So you go in there, and it's like literally furniture, the heavy pieces of furniture all over the place. That's also for sale, and the bar is there. And
I have been to the Imperial off of Ivanhoe. Yeah, because you're sitting on all of this. It's like, how much is this chair? It's like $400. So I'm okay.
All right.
And like I've only had the beer there. I didn't know they were a bourbon bar.
yeah. Well, I don't know about the. I think I've only been in the one downtown once, but yeah, my name's up in the one.
Stanford. Nice. You know, my wife and I like to scooter up there. Like we have electric scooters, so we'll go park our car and then we'll just like scoot around to whatever place we want to go. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll walk into like a brewery or something like with our scooters in hand.
Awesome.
Just,
That's cool.
and
Yeah.
then just like have a drink and scoot to the next spot because it gets packed sometimes down there.
Yeah.
You know, so having a scooter, you just got to stay off the brick road.
That's,
the only
you,
problem.
Right.
that might. I could imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, should we talk about insurance, or you want to keep talking about whiskey?
It's part of it. All right, let's
No,
we can get into it. Insurance.
So we wanted to have somebody on that obviously knows a lot about insurance. You guys work together quite a bit.
Oh yeah, ever since my career started, I got introduced through Greg Meyer, who's our lending partner, and our relationship has been just consistent ever since. I'm always passing out your name to every single buyer that I work with. And she did the insurance. I have my insurance through your company, Stone Key, and it just renewed. So we're on year 2 and things are great.
Nice.
Super informative. I love the fact that you provide video breakdowns explaining what insurance is, because I still don't really, when I look at the coverage sheet, it's still just foreign language to me.
I know,
it's
like,
Egyptian.
you know, what coverage A and B, but then it starts getting into like some of the weird ones, and I kind of want to talk about some of that stuff. I didn't bring what do you call them?
A deck page.
A deck page.
Declaration page. Yeah. Oh, declaration page. Yeah, there you go.
I meant to bring one so I could reference, but I'm sure you have them basically memorized.
Oh, in my head.
That's awesome.
So obviously, homeowners insurance is a very important thing. It's not required if you don't have a lender, right?
If you're paying cash, you do not require it. You're a fool for not having it.
Correct.
I would imagine.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if you have a lender, there's no lenders that's not going to let you. They're going to mandate that you have it, right?
Of course, because they want to ensure that if the house burns down, that they're gonna.
They're covered.
They're not.
They're not a complete loss.
Because let's be honest, majority of buyers are going to put a minimum 3.5% down, while the lender is putting down 96
Yes.
96,
and a half. Yeah.
96 and a half, 90,
Yeah.
80. That's
Right.
still hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes. So they got to be.
So
They
they're
got to be protected.
yeah. To just go ahead and sign off on not allowing insurance is just impossible
Yeah,
So-
that's
to happen.
But even like we said, if you're paying cash, you're a fool
Mhm.
to not have insurance because man, if your house burns down, sorry, that's it.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, think about how much money or what percentage of your assets that house is.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
I
it's a
mean,
huge percent for
it's-
most people.
Exactly.
Or it's probably the biggest
if
asset.
it's paid off, yeah,
Yeah.
most
Oh
people.
my God, yeah.
So why wouldn't you insure your largest asset?
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
I'm you know what? I'm surprised that there's so like auto insurance, there's laws that require everybody, whether your car is paid off or not, there's laws that require us to have auto insurance. Why are there not laws that require even if you bought your house with cash?
Well, it's auto insurance is a little different because you're actually insuring the other person.
Okay.
So it's
Well, that makes sense.
liability. So you are driving along and you hit somebody else and you cause bodily harm.
Okay. So it's more liability insurance, not necessarily for the replacement of your car.
correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah, your house ain't really going to hit somebody.
Right. But
Although
people can get hurt on your property.
on your property. True.
well, and that's what section 2 is for. The liability on your house
Okay.
is for that. If you are negligent or you cause someone, you're liable for someone's loss or pain and whatever. You do have a section in your homeowner's insurance that will cover for that, called the
Gotcha.
liability portion.
Okay.
Which, while I'm on here, the lowest you can go is on a regular homeowner's is 100,000, but you definitely want more than that.
Yeah, I think mine is somewhere around 300,000.
Yeah, it usually
Is that-
goes 100, 300, 500.
Okay.
And none of my customers, unless they stand on their head and scream and yell, they're all getting 300,000 because
Okay.
it's only $15 more a year.
Well, and that's the thing is I've noticed because I've shopped, we were just talking about earlier, I just had to shop for insurance and there's usually not a big difference in the yearly payment. So $15 a year, that's like what? It's like $1 a month to
Yeah,
get another, $200,000.
Yeah.
Okay, sign me up. So I guess while we're on that subject, so is that the same as an umbrella policy?
So an umbrella policy covers over your home and auto.
Okay.
So you've got your homeowners and auto down here and the liabilities that go with them. And then once say let's just say you hit another car and you cause damage and you only have 100, 300 on your auto. When that 300 is exhausted, then you're either going to come out of pocket,
Okay.
or if you have an umbrella, then your umbrella will pick it up and go to $1 million, 2 million, up to 5 million sometimes.
Gotcha.
Depending on what you bought.
Wow.
So a little different. So when it comes to figuring out, I guess my question is how do these companies figure out insurance costs? Like how mine is I see it range from like $1,500 all the way up to what I was telling you about earlier. The person I just did some aerial shots for, her insurance increased by $2,000 from $4,000 to $6,000 a year. I didn't know insurance went that high. To be honest, I've never had a policy that was that much.
Well, also depends on the size, right? The house, the age, location.
The biggest factors are going to be your here in Florida.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about the age of the home, the
Okay.
age of the roof, the location. A lot has to do with location because, as I'm sure want to know, the fraud has been outrageous, especially in Orange, Osceola, Seminole, and Lake.
Yeah, for roofs, and I definitely want to
Mhm.
really kind of lay into that one a little bit later. Just kind of point that out because that's something that's really important to discuss. I think a little bit more in depth, but
Yeah.
continue. Like you got the proximity to water because we're a floodplain. We're a very very low state.
Well, what happens when you get closer to the water is they start taking away the wind coverage. So you can get a regular policy, but you can get it without wind. So a lot of them will stop writing, or they'll write with wind only, or without wind. They'll exclude the wind coverage closer to the coast.
What's that?
Well, because they get battered by the storms that come in. They're the
Mhm.
first line. Because remember, when a hurricane comes on shore, it's got the full power. When it's in the ocean, it's the strongest.
Right.
As soon as it starts going over land, it
Mhm.
weakens tremendously.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
the more inland you are, the more protected you are.
Mhm.
Those guys right on the coast, they are getting the brunt.
right.
So that's why when you're doing your quotes, they ask you how far away from the coast you are, because I get that question all the time.
Yeah.
Is they want to know, and they put it in feet, which I'm like 7 miles away or something. But yeah, they always ask that question. What's the closest? How far am I away from the coast? What's the closest fire hydrant and the closest
Station.
station?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And there was another agent that I was working with one time, and they looked all over and they couldn't find a company that would insure my house, because I think the cutoff was like 5 miles to the nearest fire station, and I'm like 5.5 pushing 6. So it was
Okay.
like just barely.
So so there's what's called ISO protection classes.
Okay.
And the protection classes go from 1 to 10.
Okay.
And so what you want is, most companies want to stay in a sweet spot. They'll do 1 to 4, which means you're within that 500 foot of a hydrant and within 5 miles of a fire station. Once you get out of that, say you have a fire station farther than that, and you're not within 1,000 foot of a hydrant, then you get into protection class, what they call protection class 9. Some companies will take a protection class 9 and some will not. And if
Mhm.
you're protection class 10, you don't have a hydrant or a
So if you're out in the boondocks,
right, because the way they look at it is, if that house catches fire, there's not really a close enough fire
Mhm.
station or water source
okay,
to put out the fire.
Mm.
So it's probably going to be a total loss.
okay. So that makes I can understand that from a business perspective.
Right.
But so for those on the coast who are, they don't get wind coverage, you would think they're the ones that would need it the most.
Of course.
But it sounds like these companies are cherry picking and being absolutely biased.
Well, they are, because they have to, maintain certain financial solvency standards.
Mhm.
Now, they do have what they call the wind pool, and Citizens, I think it's Citizens that defines where the wind pool is, and we can run
That's
a
interesting.
report on the wind. If you're in the wind pool, I'm assuming he's in the wind pool. Anyways, all along the coast, is a wind pool. And if you're in the wind pool, then you can get a wind only. So a lot of people on the coast, if they can't get regular, they'll buy a policy without wind, and then they'll go to Citizens and get a wind only.
Huh.
And
So they'll have like a
okay.
double coverage.
Well, it's not double, just but
yeah, how would
you're basically getting everything you need, but you have 2 separate policies.
interesting.
Similar to flood, because
Yeah.
normally flood is also separate. So I have people on my books who have a flood policy, a regular homeowner's policy, and a wind policy.
Yeah.
Because if they're in a flood
Yeah.
zone, and they're required to have flood insurance.
Flood insurance seems to have gone down quite a bit in recent years.
Depends. It depends. They just revamped that system too last October. FEMA spent the last couple years remapping all of the flood zones in Florida.
Oh, really?
Which was needed because wasn't
Uh-huh.
it the last ones like in the 90s? Or actually,
Was it?
I don't know, but it needed it. It hadn't been done in
Yeah.
a long time, and they were still like the way that they were figuring their rates was completely in the dark ages.
right?
So
That was like the biggest thing too. It's just like everyone, like when I heard, oh, it's in a flood zone, I was like, oh my god, and insurance is going to be through the roof. But it's calmed down a lot in the past couple of years. I would say no.
Maybe it's more fair. I don't know. Well, there's a couple things, because they also allowed the private market to come back, where for a while, when I was first in insurance, there was no private flood market. It was only NFIP, which is the National Flood Insurance Program,
Mhm.
which is FEMA.
Yeah.
And they basically set the rates. So whatever FEMA said it was, like, you could go to that agent, that agent, that agent. They're all going to give you the same number, because there was no competition, because it was all done through the federal government. But then they started about 5 years ago. They started letting private flood come back in, and so
It kind of normalized rates a little bit.
the other day I had a flood zone X, which means like the least likely to flood.
Yeah.
And
Everyone, that's the golden one. That's the golden one.
Yep,
If anybody's concerned about flood zones, it's that's where you want it to be. You want it to be a flood zone X.
So I rated them. So I ran their flood quotes, and FEMA was $900 something, and I ran it through a private flood company. It was like $353.
Yeah. See, I think when you start kind of opening it up, and I was kind of hearing this listening debate, like sidebar about like when they capped gas prices.
Yeah.
I think it was like in the last time they capped it. Was it in the 90s or was it in the 70s when they capped last time?
I don't remember that, so it must have been the 70s.
Yeah. So when they capped it, I can't remember the years. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, when they capped it, the rates were like sky high. But then as soon as they released the cap, the market quickly simmered down to more affordable pricing. So I think when they introduced the private companies that allowed more competition and allowed things to just kind of simmer down.
I don't know though, because some of the more coastal, the ones that are in the flood, it seems to me like they're going up. They have gone up.
Well, everyone
maybe, I don't know.
Well, here's something I wanted to talk about: is like a mass exodus of insurance companies. In 2004, when they had the 4 hurricanes, there was like a huge issue with the insurance companies saying goodbye.
Yeah,
and then it seems like now it's happening again. What's going on?
Now I hit it's an interesting cycle, because I did until now. I never really saw the evolution of the market swings in the insurance industry. And when I came into the industry late 2008, early 2009, yes, all of the companies in 2004, they had been severely stressed. Most of them left, and it was a hard market. But then when I came in, it was softening. And so all the prices were going down because they'd been high, recovering from those storms. And so when I got in the industry, it was like taking candy from a baby. It was so easy because everybody was jumping because they were so used to the high prices. And then we opened up the agency in Oviedo, a different agency, and it was just like the business was just jumping into the boat. I mean, we grew that book so fast. And then, cut a couple years, and then I was out of the industry for a couple of years, and then I came back, and it was starting to harden. And I didn't really understand why it was harder to get business. And then came Matthew, Irma, Michael, and then all of this roof fraud with the roof, all that stuff, and the assignment of benefits stuff. And it is just, it's breaking the industry. It is just, it's crazy because now people are just being squeezed. Just, people are so upset. And I got into the industry thinking, this is great. Everyone's happy. They're buying houses. They're excited.
Yeah.
I get to go and make people happy all day.
Yeah.
And now it's turned into my worst nightmare. Everyone's like, why did you raise my prices? You suck. I'm going to sue you.
Yeah. And then we got hit with like a $13 bill from the state.
Oh,
for that to go towards citizens. Like they didn't make how much last year? They had a profit of like a couple billion.
They don't. But Citizens is not a not for profit. They're not a profit.
They're a state emergency, but the amount of policies that came through, it's just like you can add up the money, how much was collected.
Right. But they're responsible. And because no one else can find anything out. I mean, everyone's piling into Citizens.
Because no one else can get insurance right now. So last year, the last number that I heard is like they have written so far since the pandemic over 800,000 policies. Yeah. And it's projected by the end of this year we're gonna hit 1 million. They're gonna write 1 million.
I've heard that also.
And it's like if we get four hurricanes or 3 named storms this year, like
I'll tell you what,
that state of emergency fund's gonna go belly up.
Well, and I'll tell you what's scary is all those people. There's a lot of people who are just, price. I don't care if it's Citizens, just give me price. And on their applications, it literally says if there's an emergency and Citizens run short on money, they will be assessed 45% of their premium.
So what does that mean? Assess
that means
45% of
that
their
means
premium.
if citizens run short on their money
Mhm.
and they are not financially secure, if they choose to do so, they can assess all the citizens, policyholders, 45% of their premium.
Wow.
So,
Meaning that they had to pay 45%.
yeah, like say your policies, I don't know, I don't do the math. Say you're paying $1,000
A year?
a year.
Okay.
That's 45
Percent.
So
40
$400
$450.
Yeah, 450. Yeah.
They could just whack you. Oh, pay up.
at the end of the year, they could just say, "Hey, you owe us 45%."
We're in a deficit. You're a citizens policy holder, 45%.
So just like
Really?
how we got hit with a $13 bill. I'm not even a citizen.
You're not, so you'll never go over 13. But all the citizens,
No
policy
wonder their
holders.
stuff went up. Oh man, I had a client call me. He was just like, "Dude, my shit went up like fucking $200 some odd." And I was
Oh,
just
wow.
like,
That's-
"That's a lot."
I was
but
telling Jared that's nothing.
that's nothing. Would you?
I've seen up to, what was it, $6,000 year over year. I saw one in Orange County a couple months ago.
A $6,000 increase.
Yeah, now
increase.
that was a
It's got to be a
house.
big
Okay.
house.
It was a big house.
Okay.
Yeah,
But,
his policy
yeah.
must have been like $2,000 or something like that to go up
I mean,
6,000.
They're trying to get, what they're trying to do is just, I think they're just the ones that they don't non-renew. They're just trying to
weed them out, trying to get rid of them.
Okay.
So
maybe, but all that stuff has to go through Tallahassee. All admitted
Yeah.
companies have to be approved for their rates.
Okay.
So just remember that if you get a rate hike, it wasn't your agent to do it. All that shit is approved by Tallahassee first for admitted companies.
Okay.
For non-admitted companies, they can do what they want.
So what's admitted company? What's the difference between
Yeah.
admitted and not admitted?
So an admitted company basically have to be vetted and get approval to write in the state of Florida and be backed by the Florida Guarantee Fund.
Okay.
So
And
basically,
be vetted by.
the state.
Okay, by
yeah,
the
the
government,
Office of
kinda-
Financial,
Okay.
whatever. Anyways, they and because the admitted companies are backed by the state of Florida, so kind of like the FDIC is insured, your bank account is
Okay.
insured.
Yep.
Okay, so that's similar to how the state of Florida insures
Okay.
admitted companies.
Gotcha.
So admitted companies have to go, they have to be vetted, they have to be approved, they have to submit their rates and all their stuff. And then the state of Florida says, yes, you may do business here, or no, you may not,
Okay.
or change
Huh.
this or change that or whatever. And then we'll allow you to be admitted. Now, a non-admitted company, they're like your huge behemoths like Lloyd's of London, Scottsdale, Aegis, all of these companies who are AM best rated like Prime, AM best rated Superior, like huge monstrous companies. They don't want to deal with the state of Florida, and they're not going to deal with the state of Florida. So they don't care,
Yeah,
so they come in and take specialty. They'll do specialty stuff that other companies won't because they can,
Yeah.
But they're going to charge for it.
of course. Yeah.
So that's where you. Now I'm starting to understand because with some clients, you're like, of course, the only people who are going to take this are the specialty companies. Now I'm starting to get a larger grasp. Like these are these private companies
Yeah.
that are they don't give two craps about like the consumer. It's just like, you want it, here you go. Sure,
Right.
we'll do it for you.
We'll do it for a price.
Yeah.
So
For a price.
Just to
somebody
get it
on
done.
here, Catherine Ernst, she just asked, what does vetted mean? So they have to go
Oh, vetted.
through.
Hi, Mom.
That's hilarious.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I figured because she said earlier, she's like, my daughter knows a lot about insurance, and I was like, that they got to be related, but I wasn't gonna say anything.
You outed me, Mom.
My mom likes to chime in too.
That it just means that they take a very close look at their financials
Okay.
and their rating systems. They look at everything.
Okay.
And
So
just like going
it's-
through like a job interview, the state has to go through you, or they have to look through everything about you
Right.
before they say, yeah, you can conduct business. You're what's your status? Are you considered private or?
My agency?
Yeah.
Well, we're an agency. We're not an insurer. So
like a broker.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's different, right? Because agencies, they
I should have known
find the
that.
policies, but then you have the companies that do the underwriting that actually do the insurance.
Right. So there's two different kinds of generally because
Yeah.
there's a couple there's a couple of hybrids, but generally you have a captured agent and
Okay.
an independent agent. A captured agent is like your State Farm,
Okay.
your farmers,
So they work
Kin,
for
only that company.
that company.
And they're not allowed to write anything else.
Gotcha.
So you go to that company, they're like, here's your State Farm, but I don't like State Farm. Well, you get
Too
State
bad.
Farm.
Okay. Whereas you can shop around
Mhm.
for the customer.
We've
Gotcha.
got we've got contracts with probably 30 some odd companies.
Okay.
And and what we do is we'll shop them all and then
Yeah.
we'll come back with the best two. And usually I will do a video
Yeah.
just explaining,
I love
I
it.
usually keep it under 5 minutes.
Yep.
For the individual customer.
Uh-huh.
And I'll go, I'll just basically say, here's, thank you for letting us take a look at your house. Here's your we found your replacement cost to be around this. Here's your coverages. Here's a little about each coverage that you see on your deck page.
Yep.
Or the quote. And then if they have other questions, then they can give me a call and I'll answer all their questions.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Fair enough. So is there an advantage to go with somebody like you who can shop around versus going with directly like a State Farm agent or a Security First agent or something like that? Is there pros and cons to each side? I mean, obviously you can shop around and find a good rate, whereas they can't, but do they get some sort of discounted rate because they're working directly for the company?
No, a lot of people are going to be mad at me, but I think, I've seen a lot of kind of squirrely behavior with some of those agents because they're so desperate to get deals. They'll cut coverages and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
And not
Oh,
thoroughly
yeah.
explain it.
Oh yeah.
So they're cutting coverage and they're just not explaining what's going on to the consumer.
If they did, the customer didn't understand it.
Okay.
You know what? It's not always the captured agents that do it because I have Universal PNC and I had another realtor give me one of his clients who she actually had just bought 3 weeks ago here in Altamont Springs. And he's like, I want you to get her a better policy. Well, I looked at her policy. I saw the same company, but I looked and she didn't have that agent left off loss of rents. Like this was an investment. They left off loss of rents. They left off vandalism and mischief.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that you would think a landlord needs. I mean,
you gotta have that
and I
stuff.
talked to her and I said, this agent, yes, this is. Well, she didn't think it was a good price, but honestly, it was a good price for what she bought.
Right.
And I said, this is actually a good price. You're not going to find anything better. But I'll tell you what, you don't have any vandalism on here. What if your tenants decide to trash it?
Then
they
what?
get mad.
Yeah.
Or lots of rents.
Yeah.
If they, if something happens and they have to move out,
right,
you're not making any money.
Who's covered? Yeah.
Yeah. And there was one other thing I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was 3 things, and I thought, I don't know how that agent wrote that policy and didn't tell you that.
Yeah.
But they're out there.
So what about the actual cost? I mean, you're for you example, you're shopping around at 30 different companies, and all the coverages are basically the same. If somebody needs a certain amount of dwelling, certain amount of liability, like if all that stuff is the same, why is there such a wide range of cost? Is it just kind of like the Porsche versus the Toyota Camry? Is that kind of what it is? Is one company better than the other so they can charge more, or is it customer service from that company? Is it like why is there such a big price difference sometimes?
There's bundling too. Like to me, like I don't know if you're have something like I guess like State Farm. You have State Farm for your auto, and if you go to home bundle, there might be some discounts to that.
Well, bundling in Florida it's tough. It's not like other states. We're a horse of another color. Another one of my customers, she insisted on a bundle. Yeah, she insisted on a bundle, and I went through and got her the one company. I didn't even know they did bundles, but I got her one, and it was 3 times what she's paying right now.
Ooh.
So I tell people, you can have a bundle, but it's not going to save you any money here.
Right.
In Florida, it's not going to save you any money. But back to your question.
Yeah.
Every company is going after, every company has a different business model.
Yeah.
And they're going after different stuff. So some people like brand new stuff in Lake and Sumter counties.
Okay.
Some people like coastal.
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
people like Polk County. Some people are going for Volusia.
So it's just kind
Zip
of like a
codes.
business model for that particular insurance company where they like to do coastal, so they'll try to entice them by having a cheaper price for coastal, whereas inside towards
Mhm.
central of the state, they're like, we don't want to deal with all those hooligans over there. We just want beach people.
We only want like Cyprus. We want they're pushing these
Okay.
condos.
Right.
But meanwhile,
Okay.
they won't take anything over 30 years. And I got a call the other day from the rep, and she was like, Victoria, you're not going to be selling, and blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, your prices aren't in line. And not to mention, you're not renewing a lot of my
Right.
customers.
Oh.
So don't be talking to me about contests when you're not renewing the people you got. So
Yeah. And it's even happening too where the actual HOA, the master policies are actually underinsured.
oh, I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
I'm sure of it.
I'm starting to hear a little bit of whispers of that occurring
Oh, yeah.
lately.
Well, it's an interesting thing, not to interrupt you, but since the supply shortage, all of the building materials have gone sky high,
Mhm.
and our replacement cost estimators have also gone
Yeah.
sky high.
Yeah.
Well, that was when I was telling you about. That's what we were talking about with the person I was doing the aerial photos for. Their insurance had gone up, but part of it was we were talking about the cost of materials to replace have also gone up because she noticed on her declaration page that the dwelling coverage had increased quite a bit. So
Well,
go ahead.
They
I'm
also
sorry.
have inflation guard.
okay,
So most policies have maybe like a 3 or 4% built in,
okay,
just to rise with the market as it
Okay.
gradually. But when people are refinancing,
yeah,
those lenders, they were asking before the new laws went in where we couldn't release the RCEs. They were wanting they were wanting us to redo everyone's RCE,
mhm.
and things are coming in 30, 40.
What does RCE
yeah.
stand for?
Sorry, replacement cost estimator.
Okay,
That's right. Use your lingo. We'll call it.
yeah, 'cause I
We'll call it.
I
Yeah.
honestly had no idea. I
Yeah.
was like RCE
Replacement cost estimator.
I'll go
Okay,
with
so
it.
they're adjusting those too. So everyone's adjusting their stuff. So that means more insurance is going to go up. So not only interest rates is going up, but insurance is going up.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, making it even harder for buyers to get in.
Right.
I understand. Talk about like people like companies cherry picking. Did you hear about State Farm?
No, what?
They're not taking anything older than 2000.
Oh, I believe that.
Really?
There's
Nothing.
most companies are doing
Nothing.
that.
Wow.
It's insane. How's that?
There's companies that aren't taking anything older than 2019 in Orange County.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Why? What kind of a business model is that?
But they
don't want it.
They can do it. I mean, obviously they're making enough money
Yeah.
doing what they do. So
And, it's the thing. Like my friend who works for State Farm, he's just like, insurance company is about making money, not giving money.
Right.
I was
Oh,
just like, I
that's-
know, and I hate it.
that's what people
You-
forget.
I've called you many times, just like so frustrated
Right.
with the whole insurance.
We have
process
had
of
some
it. We've
conversations.
had some, and I love you. Like I love you all for it. And
Yeah.
it's just like I'm venting to a friend
Right.
who's in the industry.
But it's
Mhm.
true. I mean, the insurance companies, they're a business just like I'm in business of real estate.
Yeah.
You're in the insurance agency business. We're all in the business to make money, just like
Yeah.
the big giant insurance companies.
Yeah.
So yes, when they take your money, they don't want to give it away. They don't want to reimburse people for all this stuff. So they're going to fight it. They're going to try to
Well,
get around it. But
that's true too. But right now, so many are going insolvent. You can't say that they're just
Yeah.
raking
True.
in the
So-
bucks. I mean, they're
they're
going
that's true.
bankrupt.
So why is there a mass exodus? Can we circle back to that a little bit more? Like
Yeah.
why? Like you're the inside.
well.
What's going on?
These companies, there's been
You're talking about the ones leaving Florida.
Yeah.
well, leaving Florida or
just
going
going under.
Going under. I mean,
Yeah.
I did a presentation a couple weeks ago, and I had 9 pages of companies that have gone under.
Wow.
Isn't St. John's one of them or something
Yeah,
like that?
St. John's
St.
was-
John's is massive too.
St. John's was the 8th largest in the state, and
Yeah.
they went under as of March 1st. And Slide came in and took over, a new company called Slide that had just been approved by the state. And luckily, the Tallahassee approved them to take all of St. John's business.
Wow.
Man.
So
Are they going to do? I mean, like it's all speculation if they're going to like do rate adjustments or stuff like that. Just
We've already seen it. They're doing
they are
big, yeah.
like sink or shit or get off the pot kind of thing.
Well, just we got to write this book so that it doesn't, so that we can stay solvent. They're going in and they're increasing prices to match, because they have the actuarials. They're looking at the numbers,
Mhm.
and they have to keep a minimum surplus, and they have to buy reinsurance. Reinsurance is what insures them in case of a hurricane.
Like a secondary market. Okay.
Well, like the big companies that they buy. So all of these companies have to have reinsurance. So they buy, so that if a hurricane or a major storm comes through, if they're, they have help paying the claims,
hmm
because they have to keep a minimum amount of surplus for all. I don't know what the number is, but of course there's percentages for how big their book is, how much surplus they have to have, and how much reinsurance they have to have. Now remember, when all of these storms go through, remember Harvey went through Texas, and then the wildfires in California. All of these global companies that do the reinsurance, all of those got affected by all of those things.
Yeah.
Because they're doing reinsurance. They're not just doing reinsurance for Florida. They're doing it all over the globe.
That's wild.
And so
I didn't even imagine that was a thing.
Yeah. So
Reinsurance.
So they go in, and of course they set their rates, and they look at the storm season or the different factors in whatever areas they are in.
Right.
What a guess.
I know.
And then they set their prices, and then of course in Florida we're back to mostly regional carriers, so they're not huge, strong. Even Allstate, they won't write an Allstate here. They write Castle Key. They have regional carriers so that they don't expose their main big company to Florida and Florida's problems.
So what is like? What's causing these companies to go belly up?
The claims.
So what are the biggest claims?
So right now, okay, so this is my ideas.
These are your theories.
This is my theory.
All right, bring it on. I love theories.
Here's my theory. So in 2004, we had Charlie go through, and it destroyed. I mean, I don't remember. I don't know if you remember when they would do aerials over, or the Central Florida area, and there was just blue tarps everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened? Everybody got a new roof.
Yep. And on top of that, the state suspended permits. I think it was the state.
Yes, they did.
They suspended permits. So everyone and their mother who knew how to lay a shingle, they all of a sudden became roofers.
Right.
And coming down.
That's right. And then so normally, my idea is that everything's kind of like random. So not everyone gets a roof at the same time.
Right.
It's kind of here, there, here, there, here, there. What? Maybe small pockets with a hailstorm or something like that.
Right.
Snowball.
Right. So everyone got a new roof. So everyone's roof is aging at the same pace.
They all know it too. These companies know it.
And I mean,
if you look at the spreadsheet,
but they know it. But then you get these roofers who are opportunistic, and they're going and knocking on everyone's doors and whole neighborhoods. We can get you new roof. We can get you new roof. We can get you new roof.
Yep.
We'll tie it back to this hailstorm. We'll tie it back to this, because they have records of all the hailstorms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can pin it on a storm.
Yep.
And then I feel like, so I think it's like the perfect storm, because you've got the roofers working with the attorneys. You've got the assignment of benefits. So you've got not so great people having people sign over their insurance rights to the insurance company or to the roofer.
Yeah.
And then if the roofer, so I've seen roofers, they'll have them sign over their insurance rights in the assignment of benefits, which is now they've done legislations to put, because these roofers, some of them would go and then they wouldn't even, they wouldn't do the roof right. They wouldn't finish the roof. Some didn't do a roof at all.
They would just take the money.
And and then they go bill the insurance company. What would be a $10,000 or $12,000 roof is now a $30,000 roof.
Oh my goodness.
And then if they don't get it, they go fine. And they hand it over to their attorneys they're working with. And then the attorneys just started filing suit after suit after suit after suit. I heard a stat a couple weeks ago, and something like 79% of the lawsuits against insurers were out of all the United States. Like 79% were in Florida.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
had a client, and we were selling her house, and she said that there were no litigations, but she didn't realize, but they were waiting for something to come in the mail from for the roofing and everything. And it turns out, I'll omit the name of the company, filed a lawsuit against the insurance company for the roof.
Oh yeah.
And it was actually for the whole neighborhood.
Oh wow.
There was like over 30, 40
yeah.
homes in the neighborhood
Jeez.
that was a part of this giant lawsuit, and they had up to 2 years to settle it.
Oh wow.
And like it held up our closing. It became extremely problematic. The seller had to get her own private lawyer to go after that lawyer to get them off of the suit.
Right.
Yeah.
And eventually we were able to get it done. But it was, that was my first real taste of like some of these roofers are really shady, and they're going after insurance companies like, here, sign this and we'll get a new roof for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
And
here,
we'll negotiate with your insurance company, and they're
Yeah.
suing the insurance company.
yes, and so
Right.
here, and then when the and then here's the fun part, when the homeowner goes, wait a minute, I didn't
sign up for
I
this.
didn't want you to sue. They're like, no, we're going to sue you because
Right.
you signed the assignment of benefits that said
Yeah.
it's our benefits. So now
Jeez.
you're involved. So they get sued.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's called reading
Right.
reading what you're signing.
Right. Well,
They
yeah. I mean,
never-
that's always important to do. You should read what you're. But there's some of those insurance contracts are
Well,
like.
yeah, they're this thick, and they slide it in there, and you're
Yeah.
just like, do.
I mean, how often do you read even like just a short article? I got to read it 2 or 3 times before I really get the full
Process
gist
it,
of
yeah.
what's going on. Let alone a contract with a bunch of legal
Mhm.
jargon
Right.
that. I mean, geez.
Like it kind of goes back to the whole apps, like terms and conditions.
Oh,
You read
yeah.
the terms and conditions,
Check.
you go to open it
Yep.
up, and it's like
Agree.
30 pages long.
I
You're
mean,
like, no
you're like,
one's
how-
gonna read
How
this.
fast can I scroll down to the
Exactly.
bottom?
Oh,
and
this
hit-
one's a
So-
long
yeah,
one.
I know.
Yes.
Dang. Like nobody ever reads
I got
that.
a tread scar
Next
on my
thing you know, you got yeah.
God forbid if your phone's got a crack in it.
Right.
Next thing you know, you owe them like your firstborn or something. You
exactly.
didn't even know.
South Park actually made a very funny episode about that,
Did they?
like about Apple. It's like, sign here, and like it, the movie Centipede, like that disgusting horror film. It kind of like South Park about reading terms and conditions. Like, and the guy's like, no, you're supposed to read what you're signing. Now we get to tie you guys together.
I saw that. I saw
Okay.
that one.
Yeah.
Yes. it
And
was
they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I know.
And then
Yeah.
after like it was just kept getting progressively worse for them.
Oh.
And he was just like, just sign this and we'll let you go. And they
Yeah.
just sign it. It's like, no. Like, it was the funniest episode I've ever seen in my life. And it's so true.
That's funny.
So true. And like I do the same thing. I'm guilty of it. But
Yeah.
like when it comes to like legal documents and like real
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
I'm
We all
reading
do
that
it.
shit. I'm
No,
reading it.
I always
I never used to
I
read
try
it.
to read through as much as I can, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, I mean, how bad could it be if I don't read the whole thing? I mean, that's the thought
Yeah.
that goes through my head.
Well,
Next
What's the
thing,
worst that could happen?
next
I
thing you
trust
know-
these people.
Right.
Yeah.
I trust it. It's fine. Well, I mean, how many of your clients as an agent, I mean, how many of your clients that you're working with, do they, unless you sit down and go
I
through it?
sit down.
But I'm saying, if you were to hand it to them, how many do you think would actually read it? Hardly.
Yeah, and not say anything.
Right.
I only a handful
Correct,
will
yeah.
actually sit there
Yeah.
and go through it
Right.
that I've had, but I
Yeah.
usually force them to go through.
Well, yes. And that's
Here's what it is.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. That's what we do.
So, I mean, we've talked about like kind of what insurance is, how much it costs. So, you have your policy. When should I actually make a claim? Because that's always a question in the back of my mind. Like, okay, if something breaks, like if my shed, I have a couple of sheds on my property. If something breaks or whatever, at what point, if my deductible is $1,000, $2,500, at what point should I really start thinking about making a claim? Is it $5,000 or, I mean, I don't want to make the claim and then I get a mark on my credit history or my insurance credit history.
What there will be, whenever you're filing a claim, it's a history.
That's what I'm
like,
saying.
You get docked for it.
I don't want
which
to.
is nuts.
So that's why, like, how I know it's important when I make a claim and it's going to hurt me later on. So at what point should I make that claim? Do you think?
That's a great question because I get that question a lot. People
Yeah.
on the fence. I usually just I take a look at it and if their deductible is $2,500 and it's
Yeah.
going to be like $3,000, just pay it, because you don't want to have
Right.
that on your record.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many people come to me and they have 2, 3, 4 claims and nobody will insure them.
And they wonder why.
And they wonder why, because they're frequent flyers and everyone knows that it's on their because here's the biggest issue is, of course, your homeowner's insurance is for catastrophic events.
Okay.
But what I see from young people is that they think it's a maintenance policy.
Okay.
And they're like, my air conditioning broke. Can I claim that? No, honey, you bought a house.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
And you're responsible to maintain it properly.
This isn't
Right.
landlord. Well, what is insurance for? It's like, we're not landlords.
Right. And that's the biggest problem I see. So what I do is I kind of evaluate it. And if it's a water leak and it's going to be $8,000, you know what? That's kind of catastrophic, because a lot of people don't have $8,000 laying around.
right.
And that's just probably for, say, replumbing, but like,
Right.
what about all the damage?
Right.
Personal damage
Right.
too.
Right.
But people call me up and they're like, someone else just bought a house down in Polk County, and she called me literally a week after they closed and said, I have a claim.
Yeah.
I have a claim.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that shit before too.
And I said, do you? What happened?
Yeah.
And why didn't the inspector catch it?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just wanted to get past and do closing.
Right.
Right.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, ended up, I said, well, I would get a plumber out there and take a look, because it was a leak somewhere or something. And apparently it was minimal. It was like $500.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But
So I actually, I'm sorry to interrupt y'all. I got a friend who literally is going through that. He reached out to me. He was like, what's the going rate for a roof? Because I've been after him. Like, you got to get your roof replaced. I'm pulling up and I'm like, you have missing shingles, dude.
Oh, no.
And it's a 3-tab slab. And I kind of gave him some education. And so he hit me up today and she's like, what's an average price for a roof? And I'm just like, maybe like 3 years ago, you have a 2,100 square foot, right? Yeah, like 2,000 square foot. I'm like, all right, so you have 2 stories. So you're literally, and it's a simple four-sided roof. I'm like, back in the day, probably about $8,000 at the most.
Right.
Now you're probably looking about like 10
Yeah.
or more. He's like, I think about filing a claim on it to be a $2,500 deductible. I'm just like, he's like, what should I look out for these roofers? And I said, make sure they're not suing the insurance company. You do not want that.
Right.
So I told him, hopefully he's chiming in right now. Listening to this.
yeah, no assignment of benefits.
No assignment of benefits. You hear that, everyone?
Do not sign.
No assignment of benefits.
So what do you do instead of that? Like, you just take care of it?
The first thing I would do is ask the roofer, do you use an assignment of benefits?
Okay.
Oh, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
That's a
Goodbye.
yes. That's it. If they're circling around it, then that's a yes.
Yeah. There's plenty of roofers out there that don't use assignment of benefits, who are great people. I can recommend 2 or 3 that have done great jobs for people that I know and have gone above board and fantastic. And I just, it's tough because there's so many, but ask your agent. I'd go ask your insurance agent.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
So when it comes to making claims, then are all claims created equal then? Because it kind of sounds like you make a claim, it's a mark. It doesn't matter if it's for, $500 or if it's for, $5,000. A claim is a claim. Is that how they look at it? Or do they look at, well, yes, it was a claim, but it was only just a little bit, so we don't mark that one as bad or something?
This is how they look at it. First of all, there's different, they label them like a water claim or an act of God, or
like hail.
Hail's like hail, or,
Wind.
So something that it had nothing to do with you.
Right.
And you couldn't help it. It just happened, is called an act of God. You can have usually 1 or 2 acts of God and they won't really say anything. Because obviously it wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
You start having water claims every year for 2 or 3 years. Now it's to the point, because I'm sure you guys have heard about it. Oh, we need a new kitchen. Oops, we have a broken pipe.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You can start seeing, you start reading between the lines.
Borderline fraudulent almost. I mean,
yeah. And I'm not saying they all are. Of
Right.
course,
No.
Pipes
Yes.
break. They do.
Some people just have really bad luck, and every time they go in their kitchen, something breaks.
I guess, but they do now. It's to the point where a couple companies, if you have a water, any kind of water loss, they won't write you.
Okay.
Really?
Mhm.
Well, it depends. I mean, even if it depends on the piping, like if they know it.
They don't. They're it's a few companies they just won't because of the nature of water claims and
Wow.
the abuse. They won't. They say you have a water claim, we won't write you. Other
Huh.
companies, they'll and it lasts on your record for 5 years. So and some will allow one water claim, but if it's over 5,000, then no.
Mhm.
Or if it's over 10,000, no. And of course, every different company has their different rules,
Mhm.
but they are looking at water losses very critically.
Okay, that makes sense. I had a client. She had a lightning blow a hole through her roof,
Mm-hmm.
and when she sold, like she got the roof done and everything like that. When she went to go buy, every insurance company was problematic. I think you even brought it up. I don't know if you remember, probably
Yeah.
Hensley. It was like last year. She was trying to we're trying to get insurance, and no one was touching her because of that previous claim. Like, and it's like you said it yourself. Like, there are like acts of God. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure she didn't call Thor
Right.
to come and blow
I
a hammer hole.
I don't recall that particular case, but
Yeah, I don't blame you. Like,
I have a couple customers who have had lightning strikes. It does show. Here's the other thing that I've noticed, probably that I've noticed on some people. If I've seen this happen too, when people are maybe not so nice to the adjusters or not so sweet.
Playing favorites now.
Well, no, if they're difficult
Yeah.
or nasty,
Okay.
they'll just be vindictive.
then sometimes I'll see, like say a lightning struck, but then rain came through, and they'll open a second claim for water. And as soon as you have that happen, the person doesn't know it. They're just like, haha, I'm getting my way. But then they go to try to drop the company or go get insurance later. They can't get
Oh my
insurance
god!
because
the adjusters can dick them over.
without even knowing it. I've seen a couple cases like that where the people are trying to get insurance, my other company, and they, badmouth the other company. And then I go pull, we pull the insurance reports. Yeah. Pull the insurance reports, and, several claims come up, and they're like, I only had one claim. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
This says different.
Right.
Oh, and they have the same date.
But don't they have to
They have the same date. Look at you! Oh my god, you love
I'm
it.
like-
You love it.
I'm like, okay, and I can tell by the way they're talking. I'm like, this person's a problem.
This is great. You can
So
just tell. You see
I
the
know.
writing on the wall after all these years.
I know it went down.
It's awesome.
And I can't, unfortunately, they're like, well, I need to get it taken off. I need to get it changed. Okay, well, good luck to you, because now you have to go back to the company
Yeah.
and ask, or
Like,
go to
why
Lexus,
did you do that?
or go to LexisNexis and dispute it,
Yeah.
which takes.
What's LexisNexis? Because that sounds like a phone/car.
LexisNexis is they do the insurance reports.
Okay.
And so I kind of equate it to your credit. So when you have a credit score, you have Experian, TransUnion, and what's the other one?
Equifax.
Yeah, Equifax. And if you see something that's not accurate on there, you go and you write a letter and you do whatever you have to do to clear it off or whatever. Well, it's similar to that. LexisNexis keeps insurance scores.
Okay.
There's three, like A+, LexisNexis, and Clue.
Mhm.
I think. Anyway, Clue is mostly for cars, for auto insurance, but
Okay.
LexisNexis is more for homes. And if you want something changed on your report, you have to go through LexisNexis.
I bet that's a process.
Yes.
So what's going on in the state legislation? Like, there's supposed to be a special session going on this month. What
Mhm.
do you have any details that you can share with us on what that's supposed to be about, and what do you think or hope the resolution would be?
Well, I know that DeSantis, he did. I think several people had called for a special session, and he said, no, we've already dealt with it, because they passed legislation in 2019, and then they passed legislation last June in 2021. And that was supposed to kind of curb the assignment of benefits and the the multiples on the attorneys were taking, and
Okay.
it was supposed to slow the lawsuits down, etc.
So we can understand he doesn't have boots on the ground. So he thinks it's over and done with. What are we going back for? But
Right.
what's the problem?
Well, the problem is that companies continue to go under, and people are screaming because their premiums are doubling, tripling.
Right.
And so they did announce that they were going to do a special session. My understanding, which I haven't done a lot of reading, I've just done cursory reading on it, but what they're trying to do now is do a roof schedule, an ACV roof schedule, which is actual cash value. So when you have an insurance on the whiskey's getting to me.
That happens.
It's going to be
It
like drunk
happens.
stories.
No,
Have you ever
no.
seen that YouTube channel?
Yes.
They talk-
No, it's
Drunk
amazing.
history.
Drunk history. They literally talk
This
about
is-
the history, and they are just hammered.
This
And
is
they
gonna-
they have actors, like well-known actors, like
Right.
etching out the sketch and saying like line for line what she's
geez.
saying, and it's hilarious.
That's
This is going to
funny.
be drunk insurance. Anyways.
Drunk insurance.
Sign me up.
So they're looking at doing a roof schedule. So right now, say you have a hailstorm and your roof is 18 years old.
Okay.
You claim the roof and you get a brand new roof.
Yes.
No questions asked. You get a brand new roof, even though your roof was 18 years old and on its last leg. Okay.
This was just a Band-Aid that took it off. Or
So, right. Well, so one of the ideas that they have is that roofs should be on a roof schedule where you get replacement cost on it for the first, say, maybe 2 years or 5 years or something like that. And then after that, they do a scale of how much life is left on the roof. So say you have hail damage and your roof is 18 years old, well, they're just going to give you what the actual cash value of the roof is at the time of the loss.
Okay.
So that way you're kind of splitting up the responsibility with the homeowner to maintain their home properly. And you're kind of making it fair so that the insurance companies aren't handing everyone brand new roofs, even though their roof should have been changed,
Right.
Maybe like 8 years prior, depending on the
Right.
type of roof.
depending on the type of roof.
Yeah.
Because, especially in West Orange County where there's all those tile roofs, some of those roofs are $100,000.
Yeah. And they don't think about that.
Yeah.
And they buy those houses and
They're like, what? Yeah,
Yeah,
they get
I've
that
got-
bill.
yeah, and I've got a couple of insureds over there on the west side with those, and their roofs are 35, 40 years old,
Yeah.
cracked.
But those tile roofs are
Those are-
they last.
Yeah.
They don't. They thought they did,
Really.
but now no, they've moved those to like 15, 20 years themselves because they're seeing the cracks. I don't know.
They're starting to see it more and more
Yeah,
frequently.
at least
They don't build them like they used to.
Well, they don't. But the tile roofs, it's not so much the tiles themselves; it's that underlayment where because that's where the water
Okay.
penetration. The tiles themselves, those clay,
They don't really do any
They
guarding.
don't do anything as far as protecting water from coming in, like a regular shingle roof, where that's actually keeping the water from penetrating. Before you put the tile down, you have this underlayment that is like a water guard. That's what's going over the plywood.
Mhm.
That is your protection. The tile helps. It helps kind of break it up and then funnel it down so it doesn't sit there. But the tile itself is not your protection onto the roof. It's the underlayment that goes. So
Mhm.
tiles can crack and you just
You just
replace
replace them.
those tiles. But
Did you know that bats love those roofs?
do they really?
What? Well, that
Huge
makes
problem.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Huge
There's
problem.
giant openings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know, but that is a real problem.
That
Really?
makes
Huh.
sense. That makes a
Wow.
lot of sense.
Apparently such a problem that they've started they re-engineered how they do the tiles so that they're built in so that the bats can't
Can't
get
fit in there. That makes
because there's
sense.
such a
Yeah.
problem.
That's
Huh.
actually quite funny.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Like roof is such a huge subject right
It is-
now.
well,
and
it's-
it's for a lot of our buyers, like you
Yeah.
gotta be aware of it because that's gonna be the number one pushback
Right.
from insurance.
Right.
Oh
in
yeah.
my
Is the age of the
professional
roof.
opinion.
Yeah.
Well, because like we have the lowest one, which is like a 3-tab slab. And they say it's good for 30 years, but realistically, we know it's like 12 to 15.
Oh yeah.
And insurance companies, and I'm hearing from past clients and other realtors saying that like insurance companies start touching roofs that are older than 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, even if it's a 3-tab or like architectural, which is
Right.
like 30, but realistically, you're looking at 2022.
20, yeah.
But like for those roofs, not to be touched after 10 years, it's
Well,
how is this like being any fairness to like the consumer who's paying thousands of dollars a year to a company who's saying, sorry, we're dropping you because your 10-year-old
old.
roof
Yeah.
is old
well, I have
and
a
not compromised in any way.
well, I have and it's true. And people call me, and I feel bad because they're like, "There's nothing wrong with my roof," and I'm sure there's not.
Yeah.
But I don't make the rules. But I think it's one of those compounding problems where, their answer was to pull back on the age of the roof. Therefore, it's forcing more people to go, well, now I have to get a new roof
Yeah.
because I can't get insurance. So it's like a vicious
Right.
cycle.
Yeah.
That people are like, I wasn't going to change my roof. There's nothing wrong with it, but now I have to because I can't get insurance.
Yeah.
And then
It's almost like a snowball.
yeah. So then they go back to, and they're like, well, I'm going to file a claim.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For
Yeah.
I
sure.
can't afford a new roof.
A listing that I have where they're in that same boat. Their insurance said, hey, you're going to be non-renewed if you don't get a new roof in July. They're trying to sell the house, but we've talked about whoever buys the house probably is going to have an issue getting insurance on it. So now he's kind of at that standstill of, well, I guess I'm going to have to replace the roof before.
How old's the roof?
It's 05. So
Oh my
2005,
God.
yeah.
Wait,
Well,
is
that
it,
makes
is it in
sense.
Volusia County?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, well, we have specialty companies that'll go up to 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is
For a
there
price.
All right.
for a price?
For a price. Of course.
She's like,
Of course.
bourbon.
course.
Is there roofs that you see favoritism? Like I see a lot of people shifting to aluminum roofs or metal roofs.
That is a very good option because they'll go up to sometimes, depending on the company, but sometimes they'll go up to 50 years on a metal roof because metal roofs,
Yeah.
um,
Last forever.
But it's all about
Yeah.
the seals, though, right?
Well, it is, but I mean, it's all about the quality of work on any roof, really. I
Mhm.
mean, if they
Right.
do a good job, then it's going to last
Yeah.
for the maximum amount of time. So same thing with metal roofs.
I did see something recently because the new building I bought has a metal roof, and it's a new old building.
Okay.
But-
Historic, yeah, the
Alright.
Fitch
Yes,
House
the
in
Fitch
Longwood.
House.
I gotta come by because I live right around the corner.
But I was
Yeah.
reading an article about metal roofs because I thought metal roofs were like indestructible, and they're like, I think it was Citizens I was reading, and they were like, oh, but you have to if it's corrugated. But I guess there's two different kinds of metal roofs. So one is corrugated where they put the screws in,
Yeah.
and the screws are just open to the elements.
Right.
And then there's one where there's like a little flap that's
Yeah, it
over.
comes over.
Yeah. And it covers
Right.
the screws.
Yeah.
Majority of the aluminum roofs that you see, like a patio,
Yeah.
there
They
it
have that
goes.
protective thing.
Yes.
So I was looking at mine and it doesn't. And so I read this article and they said if it's doesn't have the protective sheath
Mhm.
over it, that you are actually supposed to change out the screws like every 7 to 10 years because the
Oh, wow.
seals
We'll start
will start-
rusting.
yeah, and getting baked in the sun. So they get
Yeah,
yeah.
Hmm.
that
I
makes
was like,
sense.
Well then.
That
Never
makes
heard
sense.
of that, but that's a new
So how,
Well then.
stream of income that someone could have.
stream, yeah, right. We'll come in and replace those screws.
Right.
Exactly.
How much is it gonna cost? Well, per screw, it's about $40. So
Exactly.
So there's a question I've been wanting to. I mean, insurance rates are going up. Ryan had asked, did we talk about tin roofs? You said
10
aluminum.
roofs?
Yeah. Is that's kind of
I mean, it's a
kinda the
form of
same
metal
thing.
roof. So, I mean, there's different types of metal. I've seen aluminum. I have seen tin. I just really depends on the builder.
You know
Right?
what? I saw the coolest thing. So I'm in BNI,
Uh-huh.
and there's a roofer in our group. And a couple weeks ago, he brought in these new things they're developing, where it's a metal roof with a shingle kind of look on, like the what do they call it? The little granules.
Oh, gravel.
Gravel.
Or,
So it was a metal roof, but it had the gravel
granular.
of a
So it had the
shingle.
texture. It had a texture of a shingle.
Yes, so it looks like a shingle roof,
okay.
but it is a metal roof.
That sounds like a
Interesting.
specialty
Yeah.
roof that just costs way more than it should.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
He didn't promise it was the cheapest.
Yeah.
But then he also brought in a plastic roof, and it looked like boulders, like it looked like slate,
Hmm.
and it was some kind of composite plastic something, and it was supposed to be even better than a metal roof.
Huh.
And of course, they were specialty products, but I was like, "Holy Moses!" Like
Yeah.
that's the kind of roofs we need.
When it comes to flat roofs, because Florida has a lot of flat roofs, so we have
Yes.
membrane. There's roll roofs. That seems to be a hot topic as well.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say for those with roll roofs?
Good luck to you, because it's very hard to write flat roofs. Nobody likes flat roofs because flat roofs leak a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pull water.
Yeah.
That's the
Mhm.
unfortunate part. Like, I don't care if your shit is 2 years old. Your
Right.
roof is flat. The only thing you really do is just kind of give it some kind of an arch or
Right.
angle. Just
Yeah.
all you need is like
Some
a
sort of
quarter of an
pitch.
inch.
Yep. Just
Slow
let
it down.
that help that water run off.
Some of those mid-century moderns that were built in
The
the 50s,
50s.
Yeah.
in
The
Orlando and
South Orlando,
yeah.
the Conway, Belle Isle
Yeah.
area is littered.
yes, beautiful in their architecture, some of them, but yeah, that flat roof is just going to hurt you, and literally a lot of them, those have been 10 years and under roof requirements for as long as I
long
can
time.
remember.
Yeah.
They've always been pretty strict, and there's always been companies that are like, no, that's a very frequent one, no flat roofs.
What are some other things that are giving you issues? Because we have our big four. We've really hammered the roofs.
Mhm.
We have our HVAC system. We have our plumbing, and then we also have the electrical. What are some other things that you're seeing being really pushed back on insurance
Oh,
companies?
so as a realtor, you guys should know, no
Uh-huh.
poly pipes.
Nope.
Okay.
No
Mhm.
poly
Yep.
pipes. And with the market being so hard right now, we used to be able to swing. A couple carriers would do poly pipes with limited water or no water, but now, I mean, as far as the companies that would take them are mostly closed in the area
Mhm.
now. So I just recommend people it's going to be impossible,
Mhm.
basically impossible to write.
Cast iron, do they have issues with
Yeah,
that?
a lot of them do have some care, some don't, depending on what they use the cast iron for.
Yeah.
So, such as, okay, what is used for? There's two types. There's inward and then there's outward. There's your drainage and there's your flow. The flow is definitely the ones that hit your water, your clothes,
Right.
drinkability, and stuff like that. And then drainage. To me, drainage I can understand, but it should, in my professional opinion, should not be really on a radar. But
Most of the time,
you get pushback.
a little bit,
You
yeah.
and I've had that
sometimes.
conversation many times
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, but you don't see a lot of that anymore. You don't really see a lot of cast iron. It's once in a while,
Mhm.
and yeah, depending on the company that's open now. Specialty companies, they don't even. We don't have to have a 4-point for a
Mhm.
specialty company. They don't care.
Wow.
I mean, they do care about poly piping though. So if you know that
still
there's
required.
poly piping,
Yeah.
too late. I already
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other one is aluminum. You used to be able to get away with aluminum wiring.
Oh,
A
well,
little
not-
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope, not
Not
anymore.
No.
No.
So for plumbing wise, the biggest no-nos is polybutylene. Then there's cast iron, and then there's galvanized steel.
Yeah.
Cast iron and galvanized, the reason why there's issues for that, for those listening who don't know, is they rust from the inside out.
Yep.
And you don't need that in your body. You don't need that in your clothes. You don't
No.
want that, period.
No.
Polybutylene, if you don't know what it is, it's a gray pipe and it has copper fittings, or copper just rings around the edges, and they are just prone to just leaking heavily.
Yep.
Is copper on the radar at all?
Not usually. The biggest thing with copper is
'Cause copper is still used to some degree. Not
yes.
nearly as much. It's usually PEX or PVC.
So
Or
here's the
CPVC, excuse me.
here's the biggest thing. Most admitted companies, they don't want if they don't want to see, if the home's over 40 years old, they don't want to see original pipes. And I can't tell you how many 4-point inspections I've seen where I see it in the thing that there's PVC in under, that there's PVC present.
Yeah.
And then, but the inspectors have to say it's original piping
Because there's no permit.
because there's no
pulled.
permit. If it's these days, and this isn't forever, I hope, but at this point in time, if there's no permit, it's like it never happened.
Just crazy because there's images.
But the inspectors don't want to put their name on it because
Yeah,
they
'cause
don't know.
They're told they can't or
Well,
not to.
they don't want to be responsible if Billy Bob went and changed his pipes and he didn't know what he was doing, and then 2
Yeah.
months after they buy the house, Billy
Yeah.
Bob's pipes didn't.
Yeah, because he
Dang it,
decided because
I need to fire Billy Bob. Then he's
Yeah.
coming to do mine.
because he's the idiot who decided to use plumber's tape instead of plumber's
Yeah.
glue.
I thought that was fine. You can't do that.
You shouldn't do
Oh,
that.
crap.
It's
All
okay
right.
to use some form of it, but like when it comes to connecting pipe, you want plumber's glue.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
And the other thing that realtors should know is that PEX pipe is becoming problematic if it's before 2010.
What's going on with PEX pipe, and how do we know if it's other than permits? What's going on with PEX?
Well, I have an inspector friend, and he told me that with PEX, you can see a stamp on the PEX pipe
Mhm.
that tells you the year
Oh,
that it was
okay.
manufactured. He said that. I'm not an inspector,
Yeah.
but he said if you look, if you sometimes you have to look, you can't just, glance. You have to sometimes search.
Right.
But usually there's a stamp on the PEX. But I guess there was problems with the way they were manufacturing PEX before 2010.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies have had problems with pre-2010 or pre-2010 PEX, and they won't write it. But
Yeah.
anything after 2010 is
It's
perfectly
gonna be
acceptable.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, yeah. I was gonna say about plumbing. I forgot it. It's all right. Electrical. So I was gonna say, like, pretty much for anyone who's listening, how do you know what kind of plumbing you have? The best source that I would always say is go to your hot water heater.
Yep.
Go to your hot water heater and look at it. If you see it go into the wall flush, then chances are more than likely you have that's that style. If you see it go into, I had PEX, but then you see a secondary fitting,
A little fitting or
fitting, then chances are it's connecting to the original pipe in,
Right.
and then that's where you want to take kind of a look. If you want to see secondary looks, look under your kitchen where the pipe's coming out of the wall. If you can't see anything, go to your bathrooms, take a look, see what it is, and then just look to see what's coming out of the wall, and that'll give you an idea of what it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just that. So electrical. A lot of people don't know this, but aluminum wiring is still a thing for panels that are older than the 70s, right?
Usually in the mid to late 70s, they were doing aluminum wiring.
Mhm.
And that's problematic because I guess my understanding is, and again, I'm not an electrician, but my understanding is that when they branched into out from the house into the panel, there was copper fittings.
Mhm.
And I guess aluminum plus copper makes a battery and causes fires.
Really? Oh, well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And so no bueno, not good. Now there was remediation. I know we've talked about it in several of your deals where they do pigtails with Alumicon or Copalum.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Citizens still accepts that, but most companies won't anymore.
Yeah, Citizens is very acceptable.
Well, they kind of have to be. They're the last.
Yeah, they're last resort.
Yep, they're the last resort
with the
and
most
the
policies.
Yeah, and the last thing is the FPE boxes. Those are no.
Oh,
And
yeah.
actually, that list has grown.
Federal, Pacific
Yeah.
Panel,
Yeah.
Bulldog, Sylvania, Zimco.
Yeah.
There's a couple others.
He knows them all.
He knows them all. Pretty
Yeah,
much. If they
I
have
know everything when it comes like anything that's over than 30 years old.
Yeah.
I'm looking. You look at the house. I'm looking at the roof. I'm looking at the HVAC. I'm looking at the plumbing. I'm looking at the electrical panel. Those are the things I only care about. You taught me a great deal, and our inspector, my inspector, Tim, has taught me a great deal a lot as well. I'm still constantly learning because the more I can learn, the better I can just educate my buyers before they drop like hundreds of dollars on an inspection.
Yeah.
Go through appraisal, come to you for you to say like, you ain't getting insured. Like
Right.
you have a shit house.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah, some
three
of
of the four things compromised.
Some of the deals that you were sending me, I was like, "Oh gosh, Chris."
I know. Believe me, I know it too. And I'm like, it's like I know. I'm like, the thing is, I prep them, and like I tell the buyers, I'm like, this is an issue. This is an issue. You have 3 out of 4 issues.
Right.
You know, 3 out of the 4 of them are effed.
Yep.
So you're gonna get pushback from the insurance. And so
Yep.
what you do is like you get denied, and then you go to the seller and you say, hey, I'm gonna slap you with all these denials.
Yep.
It's not going to be us, and it's going to be the next person too.
Right.
You can either address it right now, and then we can continue, or we're out.
Smart.
Yeah.
You got smart.
Yeah.
Half the time, they're going to fix it.
Yeah.
A lot of other times,
Oh, yeah.
no, we'll find another buyer. I'm like, good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to
They're
you.
going to have the same issues.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're gonna have the
Meanwhile,
same
that
issues.
home will be on in this market for another 20 days, wondering why. Well, our buyers aren't competent. Like, no, you have a shit house, and you're, or like flippers. They will not address. Look at the kitchen.
Right.
Look at the cat. Look at the bathrooms. Like, what about your roof?
Right.
What
That
about
shit
your
makes me
plumbing?
so
My
mad.
blood boils.
Yeah.
My blood boils.
When I see people and I'm looking at a house and it's got a brand new, they did everything but what they needed to do.
Right.
It's like they have no clue. Like that to me is an amateur.
Yes.
Like fly by night.
Yep.
I'm only a handyman slapping this house together just for a quick buck.
Let me tell you
There's
another.
no shit.
Or when I get no joke, this has happened. Sunday night phone call, someone gave my cell phone out to someone, and I get a call at 8:00. We're closing on Tuesday and they have cloth wiring. Someone told me you could get me an insurance.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know who you're talking to, because cloth wiring, that's like from the 30s.
On a Sunday night, it's like, do you know what's in my hand right now? Some bourbon.
Exactly. I took that call. I was literally on the beach, and I was like, "What?" And she's like, "I have an emergency." And I'm
Call 911.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I was like, "How did you make it to 2 days before closing
yeah.
and not address a cloth wiring issue?"
That's so dumb.
I'm like,
crap.
that realtor needs help.
Yeah. And that seller and that buyer, they all need help.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you're in Central Florida and in our immediate market, there are 20,000 licensed agents.
Yep.
And less than 20% do more than 80% of the business.
Yeah.
So that tells me that majority of people out there who got their license thinking they're going to make a quick buck, they're setting you up for failure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You got to know who you're working with.
Always.
It's tough.
Always.
That person can be, I've been in the game for 20 years. Lady, how many, because majority of realtors are ladies, how
Mhm.
many homes have you sold in the last 5 years?
Right.
That number is less than
Well,
like
I'll put it this
100.
way. My dad's had
that's
his real
sad. You
estate
should-
license since the 80s. He's sold, I
How
mean,
many homes?
but he doesn't practice. He's never been in the industry, but he has
Yeah.
a license. He could just as well go out just like you and I could, sell a house, help somebody buy a house, whatever. But he's just had his license for that long because he's done his own houses to save himself some money or get,
Mhm.
some.
And I've gotten to some
So-
arguments with some of these people, including like buyers and sellers. And my question is like, how many homes have you bought and sold?
Right.
Oh, none?
Yeah.
Like I'm over 100 now.
All right.
So
You've
it's-
sold over 100.
I'm over 100 now.
You
So
rock, Chris.
yeah, thank you. And
Good
it's like,
job.
I'm not trying to like stroke my own ego here, but it's just like those numbers matter.
Yeah.
If you're trying to buy one of the most important assets, most expensive assets you'll ever own,
Yeah.
or sell something to
Yep.
make a profit,
Yep.
you're going to want to. When you go to court, do you want the best lawyer to not go to court?
Right.
You're going to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Absolutely.
So let's get back into like more. I have some more insurance, like actual insurance questions. I mean, we talked about roofs and we talked a lot of stuff about that's important for getting covered, making sure you can get coverage and all that. But one of the things is, I mean, a lot of people are having to shop around for new insurance. What can they do to actually save some money? I mean, everybody's getting rate hikes. We talked about it earlier. What can they do to try to mitigate that? Is there something they can do, or they just kind of have to accept? I mean,
The biggest areas they're going to save money is on that wind mitigation. A wind mitigation
Okay.
is for So they made big changes in 2002 on the way roofs are put on.
Okay.
The codes changed. And so if you have a house that is older than 2002 with a roof that's newer than 2002, then you qualify for those windstorm mitigations.
Okay.
I've seen them save up to $1,000 off.
Really?
Oh yes.
Just and so you got to get an inspector to do a wind mitigation.
A home inspector will do that.
Okay.
And these days, if your home's older than 20 years, I recommend a 4-point inspection.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have actually clients right now who have a 1950s gorgeous house in Winter Park.
Right.
Been totally updated, but they got hit with a hailstorm and they were in the process of claiming a roof. Meanwhile, the company they're with dropped them. And so
It's so wild.
so they're like, well, we can just get insurance, right? And I'm like, you have an open claim. And to boot, they're, they hired a public adjuster. So they're fighting the company. And I said, well, the first thing you're going to need to do, Citizens is the only company. If you have an open claim, you have a problem. If you're trying to get more insurance, because no one will touch you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or very few companies in special circumstances may take a look at it.
Okay.
But most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, you're not getting insurance if you have an open claim. Because
Gotcha.
the other companies don't want to be drug in on
Right.
it. And
Why
if
would
you start
they?
suing, they
Yeah.
don't want to be drug,
Yeah.
But Citizens
Makes
will
sense.
make an exception for roofs
Okay.
and sometimes open claims. And so I told them, well, first of all, I didn't promise them anything, but because they're friends, I said, here's what we're going to do. Go get a 4-point inspection because Citizens will allow you to, they have a special thing where if everything else in the house is perfect and favorable on the 4-point inspection, they will allow they'll allow 60 days after the binder to let you change your roof.
Okay.
But they have to approve it first.
Yeah.
So basically you have to have all your stuff together, you get all your shit together,
Right.
and then you submit it to underwriting, and then they'll say, yes, you can move forward with the binder. They have 60 days, change their roof. There you go. So I told them, go get a 4-point inspection. Why? We don't need a 4-point inspection, blah, blah, blah. I said, because your house is from the 50s. If there's something else that I don't know, if there's something else that comes up on that, I don't want to be waiting till
the last second
for you to scramble and we have a double tap on our electrical box. We have we have a leak under our kitchen sink or whatever.
Right.
I said, get it. I want to see it because I want to know and have plenty of time.
Right.
So get a 4-point inspection if your house is over 20 years old. And if it's before.
Should a consumer, in order to save money, should they think about reducing certain coverages, or should they reevaluate, what's being covered? And
you can. Some of the places that I scrutinize, if people are really price conscious, is I will take a look at their personal property. So normally, say your house, your replacement cost for the dwelling home is $200,000.
Okay.
Your average policy is going to have 50% contents. Your contents are everything: your tables, your chairs, your beds, your
TVs,
linens,
your
personal stuff.
What I say is, if you picked up your house and you tipped it over and shook it, everything that falls out is your personal property.
Okay.
That's usually set at 50% of the dwelling coverage.
So if it's $200,000, then you have $100,000 of personal.
Now, most companies, that's your average policy.
Okay.
Run of the mill,
All right.
50%.
But not everybody has $100,000 worth of junk.
Right.
Or stuff.
So some people, so you shop at, Salvation Army and
Thrift
Craigslist.
stores.
Right.
Right.
Stores,
We can decrease that down to 25%.
Okay.
If you're comfortable with that. Some people demand that.
Right.
Some people have nice things and they want more. So you can go up to 75%.
Okay.
But you could reduce your cost if you go down to 25%.
Okay.
I don't recommend it, but if people are looking for ways to cut costs and they don't have expensive things, I will do that.
So that would be one of the ways to.
Another thing is very important: law and ordinance coverage. So law and ordinance coverage is if you have a loss and you have to rebuild, sometimes the laws and ordinances have changed,
Okay.
and it'll be more expensive to rebuild or do whatever you're doing.
that the
to
one where
bring
they
it up to
give- they
code.
give you-
laws. You're saying law.
Law and
WALWS. Okay.
Law.
LAW, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
LAW.
You said WAL.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
It's
I
the
would've
Great
marked-
Stone.
Yeah, I gotta
Great
mark-
show. Law.
I gotta mark that one. I'm sorry because that's going
That's
in
fine.
the.
Mark that down.
Yeah.
Mark that down.
Chris screwed up again.
But
Or
law and ordinance.
enunciation.
So it's really important to
Law and ordinance,
have.
okay.
Is that the one where you get like an extra 20% over what the dwelling coverage is?
Yeah, you can get 10% over. Usually it comes with 10%. Some of them, it depends on the company. Some of them, it automatically comes with 10. Some it automatically comes with 25%.
Okay.
You can go all the way up to 50%. Here's the thing. If they've got a brand new house or like
Right.
a 10-year-old house that's in a subdivision,
Yeah.
I'll put it to 10
Okay.
because they're not changing the setbacks in the subdivision. I
Right.
mean, they're
Okay.
you know what I mean? But if you got a 1950s house
Yeah.
in Orlando,
Yeah.
bet your bottom dollar those laws and ordinances have changed.
Okay.
So I
Who
would
changes those?
be the commissioners, the
Legislation and
legislation.
stuff,
Yeah.
They can just go in and be like, this house over here on 123 Maple Street needs to change.
You need to.
No, they'll be like, well, we really like Maple Street and we think the houses are too close to the curb.
Right.
So if you rebuild, you have to have a
Right.
25-foot setback.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I follow.
yeah.
So there are ways that you can try to save some money on your
Well,
policy.
reports.
Should
Yeah, to save on the policy, right?
The other way
Some
is
reports?
make sure that your credit is good. Because a lot
when you say credit, is there an insurance credit, and then or are they looking at your regular credit score, like your credit card
So
stuff and
it's a mystic beast, Jared.
Okay.
Okay.
so, and I always because they always tell me like, oh, we're gonna check your insurance credit. I'm like, okay,
So they don't
Yeah.
what?
here's what it is. They take some proprietary formula.
Just like regular credit score does. It's kind of a weird formula that I've not figured out yet.
And it's proprietary. So
Right.
they don't tell us. Everybody was like, explain this. I don't know because they don't
Can't.
show us.
Right,
All we do is we push order insurance score.
and then
it pops in and it goes up or it goes down.
okay,
And we're only told that it is a combination of your insurance history
okay,
and your credit score.
okay.
So the better credit you have and the less claims, then
So all the more reason to have better credit and pay off some debts and
yeah.
Well,
all that
just
kinda stuff.
you gotta just like a muscle, you have to work out your credit.
right,
If you're not using your credit or you don't have a credit card, things you don't have to have a credit card. You could use a secured credit card where it's just pretty much
Right.
is your own money.
Yeah.
You just try to prevent from closing accounts. If you don't flex it and you don't work it out, then you're not doing anything. It's just atrophying. It's working against you. So is there anything else that can help people or a consumer, any other reports that are out there that could be beneficial?
Well, sometimes, I mean, it's usually minimal savings, but if you have an alarm, if you have like a
yeah,
fire alarm or burglar alarm that's monitored,
Mhm.
that'll help. Some companies more than others, like Florida Family, they give great credits on that. Like,
I don't have an alarm, but I have a bunch of guns. Does that help?
I mean,
people are gonna steal my stuff, so I'm not
what's
gonna
a
have to make
great
a claim
alarm
on that.
system, like for a burglar who's in your house.
That's what I'm saying.
Hearing a sound of a
That's what I'm
shotgun
saying.
is
I
a
mean, I should
great
get a discount for
deterrent.
that, right?
I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so what about fire extinguishers? Any little things that could be like, because security monitoring is helpful. Photo cameras,
That
like
So,
personal,
I automatically give
like Ring.
Yeah, I automatically give everyone a local alarm credit
Aren't you so sweet?
because
That's
most
why I
people
love
do.
you.
Most people do. They have the Ring. They have people have those.
Yeah.
So
people
I
want to know who's walking up and down their doorsteps.
so I automatically give that to everybody.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you want more than that, then we have to provide an alarm certificate. So you're
Gotcha.
gonna have to
Gotcha. Pony
Okay.
up some dough.
pony up some.
How
Yeah.
How often should people update their reports, like their 4-point or their wind mit?
4 points are good for 12 months, and wind mitigations are good for 5 years.
So I
wow.
should probably update mine.
Not
Because
necessarily.
I'm on
Is there-
year and a half right now.
But is
Okay.
there a possibility where that could end up raising your insurance if you send?
It's always a possibility, but
No, here's the thing. I'm not going to recommend you get a 4-point inspection unless you're shopping for insurance because really there's no reason for it.
Mm,
So,
unless we're getting death threats of dropping.
right. If we're shopping you and your house is over 20 years, then I'm automatically going to go, Chris, go get a 4-point.
right.
Well, every year you do a shop for your customers.
Not necessarily.
You did for us, I think.
Probably because we usually do it if we see a 15% increase. If we see a
Yeah, we didn't see
15% increase, then we will run it.
Okay.
A 15 or I think $250. Then we'll automatically run. If lately it's been if it's like $350, there's not going to be anybody better because everyone's going up so high.
Gotcha.
And we're so overwhelmed right now with reshopping almost everybody that my poor agents are, I mean, we're working, crazy town right now. I've worked 12-hour days, 6 days a week for like a year and a half now.
God damn.
Yeah,
You need a vacation.
I do.
Tell your husband to buy you a vacation.
Hopefully he's listening.
Should
Patrick,
buy your wife a
Yeah,
vacation.
there you go. Should consumers...
And I'll buy you a bourbon. You're just like, fuck that. Oh, wait, hold on.
Hold on a second.
Deal.
Should consumers how often should they shop for new insurance? Like, I mean, and it is kind of a two-part question. How often should they shop for insurance? And is there a negative impact if you're switching, if you're chasing? I know in auto insurance, if you're switching often, trying to chase that lower coverage or that lower premium, is it the same, that you get hit for that, you get penalized?
You do.
So is that the same thing for homeowners insurance?
No, I would just say right now,
like I just got a new policy right now, and if I said, if I called you up and said, hey, can you get me a cheaper policy, is that going to put a negative thing on my track record?
no, but I probably at this point I probably wouldn't be able to get you a better policy just because what I'm recommending people is if they're offering you renewal and it's not going up past $500 year over year, stay put because like I said, we're seeing huge increases. And also I'm getting a lot of calls where agents aren't even answering their phones.
What?
Oh.
Because
that's our
so
day-to-day
overwhelmed.
life. So because they're so overwhelmed.
Because they're so overwhelmed with rewriting their book. Think about it. You've got St. John's that went under. You've got back to back to back. You went just in the last 2 months, St. John's, Avatar, Lighthouse. If those agents had big books with any of they are so overwhelmed trying to run all those customers, getting them placed elsewhere that they're not even, honestly, I get calls almost every day. My agent won't answer the phone.
Wow.
Because they can't keep up. I heard this is last year when one of the companies went under, and Southern Fidelity, and there was an agent who was he was just a one-man band, and he had like 300 policies with them, and he had like 4 weeks to place 300. It took us, we had 60 policies with them. It took us 6 weeks, and we barely got it done.
Oh my God.
So he was a mess. And and this was another agent was telling me about it, but he's like, he couldn't come because blah, 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 blah. He had, I mean, I can't imagine other agencies who have large books with any of the companies that have gone under. If they've got large books, they don't have the manpower to even run and rewrite the people.
Jeez.
So
busy. Holy cow.
So I'm gonna have to kind of circle back because we went over the roofs, we went over the electrical. We didn't really finish the electrical panel. Like, what are some of the pushbacks, like other than aluminum wiring, like cloth wiring, double taps, things like that, panels to look out for?
You name the panels that really are problematic, but that's really, I think, the major issue. I mean, you don't really see cloth wiring is very rare because that was done in the 30s, 20s, 30s. most everyone. I mean, that's super dangerous, obviously, electrical and
And cloth. Like whoever came up with that idea, like should be like go back in time and slap before they were doing it. Just
They
like,
didn't know.
bam.
But yeah, obviously, any of that Federal Pacific boxes, you're gonna have to change that out because those are very dangerous. Aluminum wiring, we went over that, all of that,
Yeah.
but I don't really.
How about hot water heat or water heaters?
Water heaters are interesting.
I like how you corrected yourself
did.
there because they're not hot water heaters.
They're
They're
not
just
hot
water
water
heaters.
heaters. They're just water heaters.
Yes.
Couple companies won't write if it's over 15 years old.
Yeah.
But most will go up to 20 years old. But they really, if they're over 20, then they need to be changed.
Mhm. What about ACs?
Same, 20 years old. The kind of big rule is 20. They want stuff updated within 20 years.
Which is interesting because like I understand like the life and expectancy for AC units is around 12 to 15 years. But I mean, if you take great care of your AC, you get a maintenance twice a year, you change the filters out and flush the lines like you should, like once a month or every other month. Like it could last a long time.
Oh yeah, I just had mine changed out. Mine was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
part of being a homeowner.
yep. Yeah.
Change that stuff out. Try not to do a claim.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest thing you can. What would be the biggest advice you can give to a homeowner or a new buyer?
New buyers, yeah, I would just say make sure that your agent knows what to look for if you don't. You know, just like you were saying, Chris, how
Your insurance agent or your
your realtor
agent.
your
Okay.
your realtor, make sure you have a good realtor because the realtor, like you said, they're looking at how pretty the kitchen is. You're
Correct.
looking at the pipes, the
Right.
Federal Pacific box. You're trying to protect them because you are, as a professional, are going to know, what the pitfalls are going to be and
Right.
what the problematic things that you can negotiate with the seller is going to be.
Right.
And then you can guide them as to, well, maybe this isn't the best one, let's go look at something else, or hey, if you love it that much, let's talk because this is going to be A, B, and C, D that we're going to come up against.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
Well, I guess
we're almost at 2 hours, aren't we?
yeah, we're
Are you serious?
yeah, we're pushing like an hour 50 right now. But
There's so much more to talk about.
there is. There's like
So
a
much
ton
more
of
to talk
stuff.
about.
And one of the things I wanted to talk about is a little bit of just the liability aspects as far as what does your homeowner's insurance, what is that going to actually cover if at my house, I have a four-wheeler, I've got a side-by-side, we've got some stuff that we do, and
You got toys?
we've got some toys. So
personal property.
yeah, so if I have some friends over, or, the kids have some friends over and they're riding it, am I protected under my homeowner's insurance, or is the insurance company going to say, no, that's not covered because you guys, or number one, do I have to tell them that I have these toys?
Some of them ask in the underwriting questions.
Okay.
They ask. In fact, one of my underwriting question is, do you have any plans for trampolines, ATVs, jet skis, four-wheelers, mini bikes, etc.?
Okay.
Or dogs.
Yeah, dogs.
So none of
Or
those,
exotic pets.
so is it one of those things, don't ask, don't tell? If you're not asked, then don't tell?
There's another one of those things because, like, I remember I was filling out the form for you, and you're like, "Do you have any like these dogs?" And I was just like, "Who the hell cares?" Like,
oh yeah,
it's none of your freaking business.
They
Like,
all have dog lists.
I have more chances of being bit by a chihuahua than a pit bull.
Yeah.
Like, just the only difference is the amount of damage each one's going to cause. Like, a chihuahua biting me, it's going to be like, oh, you're cute, get away.
Yeah.
Whereas a pit bull, like, it could break an arm.
Right.
It could cause some severe damage. But it's like,
Yeah.
the distinguish like what's a violent breed versus another, I think is completely flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for an insurance company to ask that is ridiculous.
Well, the reason why, guess how a dog gets on that list?
Bites a
From
lot
their
of people.
shitty owner.
But it
From a lawsuit.
yeah. Yeah.
So, but to answer your
Right.
question, here's what I would do.
Yeah.
I would make sure that you have insurance on the side-by-side and all the toys. You can get a pretty cheap policy.
Yeah.
That's going to cover your liability. And then I would definitely, if you have assets, which I think you do, I would definitely get a umbrella policy.
Yeah, gotcha. So umbrella policy. So not necessarily upping the liability on the homeowner's insurance, but just get a umbrella policy to.
Well, they are going to make you have underlying certain underlying coverages.
Okay.
So, for instance, you're going to be required to have 250-500 on your auto.
Okay. That's right. Yeah.
250-500 on your ATVs or any any things that you are concerned about, say like the side by side.
Right.
If you want that thing covered and you're concerned about the four wheelers or the side by side, you're going to want to make sure you have 250-500 and that you name them on that they get counted on your umbrella so that they are aware that you have them.
Gotcha.
So if there is an accident, that you're covered over, the underlying and the umbrella.
Gotcha.
Can you explain what umbrella is again, please?
Yeah. So let's say Jared has a family 4th of July shindig.
Right.
And all the cousins are riding on the four-wheelers and the side-by-side. And one of them runs into the other one, dumps it over, and the kids fall out and break an arm, and there's mayhem. Okay.
Traumatic experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the parents don't have the money for to make the kids whole. So they say, well, let's sue Jared. So Jared they go and get attorneys and they go, look, they say, give us your policies. They look at the policies and say they have 250-500 on the underlying policies. Okay. Well, 250,000 per person, 500,000 max for the accident.
And that's what 255 stands for.
Yes, 250 per person. So say there was 4
max.
kids.
Oh, okay.
Any one of them could only get up to 250, and then the max for the whole accident could be 500,000.
Right.
So first come, first serve. Whatever they get is whatever they get.
Right.
Now, say there's 3 of them, and they end up with $750,000 worth of medical bills.
Right.
So you're going to run out at 500,000. You've got 250,000 left. They're going to say,
Got to start
"You got
paying
money?"
up.
Yeah.
They got to start selling off assets and
Yep.
stuff to pay that 250.
Right. So he's going to be responsible.
Could he go into like a payment plan?
Well, I don't know about that.
I'm willing to pay it.
Look, at that point, I'm moving to another country.
Yeah, it's just
No,
like
but
you're
then-
asking me to sell my house and uproot. You're destroying my life. Like,
well, they would have
But
said,
they're do it because they had a traumatic experience
which I
on
understand.
my my equipment, and I'm responsible for it.
right.
Yeah, completely understand. 100%.
So if
But,
he
like,
so
they're
if he
willing
was
to pay it.
smart and he had an umbrella policy, once that 500,000 ran out, it would just go to the umbrella.
And then that would cover the difference.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just have to pay for the umbrella.
Yeah, which isn't really that expensive, really. I mean, usually it comes with a house and 2 cars automatically, and that's like maybe, depending on your credit and your driving history, probably $300 for the year, $400 for the year at
Yeah.
not bad.
That's
Yeah.
not bad at all.
No.
And Derek said on here, he's like, technically, I didn't buy the trampoline, but there's one in my backyard. So I'm not sure if that how that falls in. Like, I guess
It's so
that's
true, but
that's
it's
a
on your
legit
property.
question. If I have insurance and then somebody gifted me a trampoline, should I call my insurance company and say, hey, I have a trampoline now?
Well,
We're gonna
Or should I
raise your
not?
rate.
Well, that's
It's
a
something-
murky area
yeah.
because here's the thing is that if someone gets hurt and they sue you and you didn't disclose you had a trampoline, then you're probably not going to be covered.
Right.
Mm.
But at the time, I didn't have a trampoline when I got the policy. Is there
It's
is
a
there
murky
usually
area.
is there usually something
Here-
in there? I wonder if they put it in the
It's probably
read
your
the fine
policy.
read the fine print.
Yes,
there might be hey, if you
trampoline
get a
exclusion.
trampoline,
Yeah, there's
need to
usually
tell us.
trampoline exclusions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's an
Yeah.
element we haven't thought about yet: pools.
yeah,
Okay.
So
diving boards. You
lot-
can't have diving boards anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
But there are pools who are grandfathered in.
True.
So after 2001, you have to have certain guards or guidelines or like safety measures in place when it comes to the windows, sliding glass doors.
Yep.
A safety fence needs to be kind of put around the pools.
Self-latching door,
Self-latching doors.
gates.
Yep, gates. Things of that nature. When you're dealing with a home, because my parents' home is from the I think the 70s. It's a 9-foot pool. I used to have a Devon board, but my neighbor broke it.
Okay.
So we could put one back if we wanted to. But if someone was to go into that and an insurance company says, hey, well, your rate's going to be X amount because of the pool, it's older, it doesn't have any of the safety features. If they put those features in, could their rate become better?
No, that usually doesn't. That's eligibility, not rate. So there's a difference
Okay.
between eligibility and rate. That's a very frequent question. They're like, well, I gave you a 4-point. How come I don't get discounts? Well, you don't really get discounts from 4 points. You get it's eligibility. So they look at the 4-point and they say, is this eligible or not? So if they didn't have the safety features, it would not be eligible.
Okay. If it had, then it would be eligible.
Mm-hmm.
But even for the older homes, they're kind of grandfathered in.
Well, it depends because that's why I say also that you need to be hesitant also about shopping all the time. Because remember, every time you skip around to a new policy, they're going to send out people to go inspect that house.
True.
New business. So if you've been with a company and then mum's the word, you're already on their books. They're not really going to look at you again.
Yeah.
So you just stay quiet and be on their policy and don't say much.
That's kind of like where I'm at. It's just like staying quiet. Like my roof, the windows, the I'm thinking about the electrical, but the plumbing, everything's like 2017. Even the hot water heater, I think is like 2014 or something like that.
That's great.
Yeah. And like we were talking earlier, it's like we got in like pristine time.
Yes,
you guys
did good.
Yeah.
You guys did really good.
And our rate, I think, only increased just like a little bit. And we just got hit with like a $13 bill for citizens. And that was it.
Yeah.
So,
well, what else? I mean, we're almost 2 hours. Should we start wrapping it up? I mean, I don't want to. I know there's like a ton. Is there anything else we should talk about?
I was going to ask you, like, what are some things that I guess consumers need to look out for, or what's some things that you can educate realtors? What can you educate us on that you would like from us to do better?
Oh gosh.
I mean, I know you don't get that question a lot.
I don't. That's a really good one.
What can Jared and I do better for you?
I think first of all, thank you. I really appreciate your business, and I just love running new home quotes. It's my favorite thing. And
it literally keeps you on the front line of what's happening.
It does.
You're seeing it change in real time.
I love real estate, and I love looking at what people are getting into. I love looking at the real estate. I'm not a realtor, but I just love the real estate industry, and I love looking at. It's like me buying a house. I'm like, ooh, what are they doing?
Right.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to open this one up. It's like a present. But no, the biggest thing is just to be understanding. The biggest thing is that I don't like is when people just go, hey, can you insure a 1978 house? And I'm like,
I need more information.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe.
Maybe. Sure. I have before. What is this?
Yeah, but they just throw 1978, 28 route, 18 route. Well, here's the deal. I love it when the people that I work with, they understand what I need for a quote so that there's not a bunch of back and forth.
Yeah.
So a lot of my really good agents, they know what I need. They know I need names, dates of birth, prior address, and any reports. It's not a lot, but it's required these days. Mm-hmm. It used to be I could just dummy in, and look at the house and estimate, but now these days, they require us to have birthdays, and they require us to have prior address, and they require us, to have minimum, those are the questions I ask basically. Oh, and what, how are you using the house? Is it going to be primary, secondary, seasonal, or investment? Mm-hmm. If they answer those questions, I have really good, shout out to Antoinette. She does a great job. She has the same email. She just pops in
A template.
Yep, she has an email template. She just pops in the stuff,
Yep.
boom, and she CCs the buyer or the borrower on there and says, "I'd like to meet you to meet Victoria," and she has all the information. I say, "Nice to meet you.
Perfect.
We'll get this out for you right
Yeah.
away," and I have everything I need, and it's so
Yeah.
easy. It's so seamless.
I have a crap ton of templates.
Oh,
One
yeah.
of them is
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
you.
Yes, you do too. Yeah.
But I think it's I kind of let the previous dates and the birth dates. I kind of let them just kind of
Give
Right.
them.
engage.
Right.
Yes.
I want them to engage.
Right.
Which is also very smart, because the other thing is my biggest pet peeve. Well, one of my biggest pet peeves is when the realtor or the lender, they don't want to give me any information, and they just or they don't want to give me any information, and they don't want to put the contact them in touch with me. They want to do it all for them, but then they're not going to give me the information, so I have to like put all these caveats
Yeah.
because I don't have all the information.
And
I'm
they,
like,
Yeah.
and then when the real quote comes, it's completely different.
yes, it's not,
Yeah.
and I
And
have
it's
to.
just, and they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, you didn't give me any information
Right.
to begin
Yeah,
with.
and-
Exactly.
have-
I have to put all these stars and asterisks, premium subject to change, because I don't have the information I need.
And they didn't bother to read completely.
Yeah, they don't.
All they went straight to the PDF, opened up. Here's your rate.
Exactly. Yeah, and then
They-
when
they
everything
expect-
else
they-
comes,
they
oh,
expect you
I'm
to
sorry, we
honor
can't
that.
insure them because they've got 5 claims, in the last 5 years. What do you
Yeah.
mean? Well,
Yeah.
You didn't-
I try to get them to engage. Like I do, like, here's the gist of the property, here's the
Right.
address, the age,
Yep.
it's in a flood zone or not.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Things like that. Attach your reports. Here's the contact information.
which I will do if like my friend Antoinette, she always asks for the flood zone determination. I don't mind. It takes me 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you want that, I'll give you that too.
it takes me, it literally takes like less than a minute to find out if the property's in a flood zone, because sometimes realtors will get it wrong.
Right.
So like there's a quick link to go straight to the FEMA flood map, and you
Yep.
just
Yep.
it'll tell you right
Should
there.
you get flood insurance if you're not in a flood? I mean, it's required if you're in a flood zone, but should you get it if you're not in a flood
Well,
zone?
it's not required if you don't have a lien holder. I mean, you could still be in a
Well,
flood zone and
Right.
not-
Yeah, I
but
guess. But if you have a
but yes.
lender,
we live in Florida.
right?
So-
Well, how about if the property, because a lot of people live in lakes, is on a flood zone, and a lot of property lines go into the center of the lake,
Mm-hmm.
but the home is not
Mm-hmm.
in that flood zone plane. How does that translate into?
I
Coverage.
recommend flood insurance in Florida. I mean, we have very
Yeah.
high water tables. We're sitting on a peninsula on sand.
Yeah.
It's true. And you dig 3 to 5 feet and you're hitting water.
Yeah.
I mean, when was it? I right after Irma, one of those hurricanes, and everybody up in Deltona flooded out. Remember that?
Well, Deltona is a very low. Like
Yeah,
a
but
majority of it's
A lot of them at that time were considered in flood zones, so most of them didn't have flood insurance.
Wow,
Huh.
I don't remember that being flooded out, but
Bummer.
they're constantly putting in new drainage.
Yeah,
Every time I'm up there, I'm like, well, there's some more new drains right there.
they
being
flooded out
installed.
bad, and a lot of them didn't have flood insurance.
I believe it.
So I say, listen, if you want, if you're in flood zone X, it's cheap.
Yeah, it
So.
really is. It's helpful. You know, there's another one that surprised me that's in a heavily flood zone is Point Siena and Kissimmee.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. There's actually quite a bit in
Yeah.
there. I was actually surprised. I was listing the house. I helped them buy the house, but they bought it cash.
No.
And it wasn't until we were selling it like 2 years later that they were just, I got hit with a phone call. It's like, yeah, did you know it's in a flood zone? I was just like, what? And that's when I like pulled up the map and I was like, I was like, wow, there's a lot here. And I backed it up and I'm like, oh my Lord. And I'm like, oh my Lord, like there's a lot
Yeah.
Wow.
going on down there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was actually really surprised. But, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We're freaking Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
We're just
low.
out there.
Exactly.
One is probably about the last question I have because I'm running out of questions to ask.
Okay.
But so when I was shopping for the insurance, one person told me, because I asked, I said, well, what's the difference between the insurance agent I was talking to And then, kind of like yours, where it's an independent where you can shop around versus, I called security first and then talked to their agents. And I said, well, aside from you can shop around in different companies and what's one of the other advantages? And he had said, well, having an agent, you kind of have somebody to run things through, an agent like you versus an agent that works directly for the company. He said, because sometimes what will happen is he's like, you call me, say you have a claim, you run it by me, and I'll kind of give you advice whether or not you should make the claim or not. If you call the agent that works directly for the company, he said sometimes, even though you don't actually make a claim, now they have knowledge of, hey, hypothetically, pipes broke in my kitchen. Should I make a claim? Well, now you're on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Is there truth to that?
Trying to inquire.
You're trying to get information from them, but I'm kind of afraid to call them directly and ask them questions about like my four-wheeler or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
in fear of
Yeah.
that's directly to the source and it's not kind of a filtered third party.
It has happened. My best friend, that happened to her after Charlie. She just called to inquire, and they opened a claim for her.
Yeah, so
they
now
automatically open a claim, and
even though they don't pay anything out, you're not asking them for anything. You have like what do they call it? A no claim payout or something?
But it showed on her credit for 3 years, even though she didn't make a claim. She just called in to ask.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very valid point. Now, I don't know.
That's a great question, man.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you. I'm gonna mark that one down.
He got brownie points.
I'm gonna give him brownie points.
But every company is a little different. Obviously, they all have different rules. But yeah, that's the biggest thing about having an independent agency. I represent my clients,
right?
So I'm on your side, and when people call me, just like Chris has called me over the years, and he'll ask me direct questions and I'll answer his questions,
Right.
And sometimes they've been heated conversations.
I'll be so frustrated. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, thank you, Victoria.
Right.
Yeah. And, but yeah, so an independent agent, most of the time we're here to shop for you.
Right.
And the reason why we have several companies is because you don't like that one. Oh, we'll go
to another
else.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't like you. I don't like that. A couple of my companies, I got a little, miffed at them after their responses to Irma.
Yeah.
So guess what? They didn't get as much business.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
It's a free country.
That's
and
true.
if I don't like you, I'll go down the road.
I love it.
And I guess the other advantage too is you shop for not just home insurance. I mean, I'm guessing you do auto insurance and umbrella policies and anything insurance related, essentially.
We do flood, we do auto. Yeah, we do umbrella. We even do business insurance. I don't really have a lot of time to do business, so we don't do as much. But yeah, we focus mostly on homeowners, auto, flood, and umbrella.
So I mean, that's one of the bigger advantages too of going with an independent agent versus calling one of the big companies, because
you get options.
You
don't get it direct.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you know somebody who's able to manipulate the system and get a discount, by all means, but that's why she's like always the first person that gets the email.
And I almost feel like an independent is going to try to get the discount or the cheaper versus the agent that's working directly for the company. I mean, there's always going to be an incentive to get a higher price, I would imagine. I don't know.
Is there an incentive for insurance agents to like jack up the price?
Ones that work directly versus indirectly?
Well, remember, we don't set the price.
Well,
but the thing is, like, there's just pile on coverage, even unnecessary coverage.
Well, it's hard for me to say because I've never worked for a captured agency.
Okay, but just through like whispers or through the grapevine.
From my experience, they don't add coverages because they can't compete. Remember, they have one product, so they have to compete. We have so many products. We have so many companies that, I put it in my radar and it gives me all the companies and I go, okay, let's look at this one, the top.
Right.
They have one company that they're competing with. So usually from my experience, they're taking away coverages just to be competitive.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they don't have options. They have one option.
Yeah.
You know.
Gotcha.
One of the things I absolutely love about you is that you're absolute enthusiasm,
Yes.
your dedication, your absolute love for the industry. And
Yeah.
every time I call her,
Yeah.
Sure,
I
it's
get-
hard.
every time I get a call, or every time I call her, there's a gatekeeper now because
Okay.
she's that awesome.
Yep.
She always calls me back within the same day.
Really?
Maybe an hour,
Nice.
2 hours later, sometimes 3 if she's really busy, but I always get the call back from the same day.
Yep.
I try.
Yeah.
I try.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Victoria. What's going on?
I do try to return phone calls because how frustrating is it if you're trying to get a hold of someone and you
Yeah.
you pay money and I just hate it when people don't return my calls.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
hate that.
Yeah.
So I try not to.
So
do
if
that.
somebody is shopping, how would they get a hold of you?
The best way is to email me or
Yeah.
call me.
Yeah.
And your email is
Email is victoria@stonekeyinsurance.com, all spelled
Victoria.
out.
Can we
Alright.
put that into the chat?
Yeah.
Is there anything? How can we else? Is there a website that we can find you at?
Yes, stonekeyinsurance.com.
Okay.
And phone number is 407-542-8160.
This is your private line, right?
Private into the agency. You'll be speaking to Shania or Samantha.
I think I've spoken with them both.
Oh man, thanks
They're
so
great.
much for
Thank you so
coming.
much.
I know
Oh.
you were doing something on
Conference.
iDrive conference. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for coming all this
I
way.
know.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But now she has an office here in Longwood, so I'm gonna be
Yes.
doing Popeyes.
Oh, there you
Be
go.
like, hello.
There you go.
Yeah, come on by. I'd love to see you. Yeah, we bought a 1888 house in Longwood.
Yep.
The
Historic
Fitch House.
home, the Fitch
Our
House.
signs just went up last week, and
Ah,
yeah.
So excited for you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Jared, get in here.
Yes. Cheers.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so
having me
much.
on.
Yes,
Thank
it
you
was
so
fun.
much.
It was
All
fun.
right.
All right, guys.
So everyone,
Yes.
go ahead, do your spiel.
No,
Nate.
thanks for sticking it out. If you're listening to us on the audio side of it, you can check out the video portion of it on Facebook and YouTube.
Mhm.
And then if you're on Facebook, YouTube watching us live or the video, you can go to your favorite podcasting app on your phone. You can even go to Facebook. You know, Facebook
has their own podcast studio now.
So you can listen to the audio only from Facebook. You have to do it from your phone. It doesn't
Mhm.
work on a computer. You have to do it from the phone. But there is a podcast. If you go to Whiskey with an Agent Facebook page, there's a podcast section. I don't know. Did you know that?
I
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I saw it, but I never dove into it. So
yeah. So
'cause that's
all
the
of
one
our
thing
episodes are there.
There's so many times where I like want to listen to something that on Facebook that is like super long, and I don't want to keep this phone open, like the screen, home
Right.
screen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to be able to put it in my pocket and listen to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So hopefully they can do that.
Mhm.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. You just hit play and you can turn it off just like a regular podcast
Yeah.
app.
You can.
Wow.
So
You can also
They had to
find
get
us.
on the game.
They
Yeah.
had to get on.
They
the
had
game.
to.
You can find us on the Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, my favorite.
Yep.
Apple
and
Podcasts. Apple Podcasts,
Yep.
your favorite.
Yep. So, and then if you're an Anchor.fm fan, you
Yep.
can find us on there too. That's where
And-
I upload all of the audios, and then it gets pushed out to all the other platforms.
Very cool.
So,
Well,
All right.
everyone. And if you guys have any suggestions or topics that you want to hear,
Yep.
we're open.
send them to us.
Victoria,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.
I would like to have you back on within the next month after the special session, just to see what came of it. If you're open for it, doesn't have to be
Absolutely.
super long.
All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
We
Down
can
for
talk
it?
about it.
All right.
All right. Thank
See-
you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
See you
See you
guys.
guys.